Touchdown! What a run in the first touchdown of the 12-team playoff.
This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores!
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Anzio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik with a touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You know, last week, after there were games on Thursday, on Friday, we discussed even last week on Monday, thank God we have evidence. We had the game in Ireland. You had a couple of others. And then Thursday, there were games. And then, obviously, there's been a hell of a weekend in college football. Bangers, some of them living up to the hype, and some of them, whoa, what's going on in some programs, maybe in a free fall in fan bases as well. Good afternoon, 365 Sports. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak here and taking up till like 6 o'clock. Heisman Trophy winner and Florida A&M men's basketball coach now, Charlie Ward, was at FSU, of course, won a national title. He'll join us today at 4. How about Charlton State, which we'll discuss, and their win against Army? Todd Whitten, their head coach, at 4:40. And Phil Bennett will join us today to kind of look back at all the things he saw. He and I traded some text over the weekend. He's at 5, plus the top 5 and poll results and more. We appreciate you. Please subscribe if you haven't to 365 Sports. Bangers. You guys just kind of go where you want to go with this. It's like a water as it meanders into whatever gravity and physics takes it. Texas, Ohio State, FSU stuns Alabama, getting their football soul back. LSU with a courageous win on the road against Clemson. And last night was a banger, too, and a good one with Miami and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I was surprised at how good Miami's defense has gotten within a year. But Corey Hetherington, the new defensive coordinator, has really changed the mentality there. They were good up front. Although I wasn't, especially once Notre Dame and CJ Carr got their sea legs, I wasn't not impressed with them. I thought that was a really good one. I don't want to overreact to the first week. I think both those teams are probably going to be pretty good.
I think it was an awesome weekend. Hello, everybody. Please hit that like and subscribe if you're in chat and watching along with us. We would appreciate that. Man, just felt like the best shower in the world, or a great meal, or whatever other great things you can think of. That's what I felt like in watching college football this weekend. It was just like being on a cloud nine with all of these games rolling along the past couple of days. And then last night, a real banger to close it up, although we still have another one tonight with TCU in action. And I think that ought to be a really interesting game with Belichick in North Carolina. So, it was a great weekend. I mean, you kind of throw, to be honest with you, talk about what you want. Well, there's like a million different ways we can go.
Let me do it this way. Let me do it this way. Let's start off with the first game that was played 11 o'clock in a throwback, 14-7, Ohio State. One big throw from Sayin, the touchdown on a great catch by Carnell Lake. They beat Texas. Arch Manning was off, no question, and tentative at times too. Ohio State, statistically, Paxton sent me a text about how do you lose when you have these statistics. Well, statistics can obviously be deceiving. I didn't expect Ohio State to be able to hold Texas for sure. I didn't have that on my bingo card to just 7 points, no matter how it happened. And Ohio State has now won like 7 straight games against top 6, 7, 8 ranked teams during their run to the national title and also now to the opening game against Texas.
Well, if there's one team that could look eye to eye talent-wise with Texas, it's Ohio State, and probably should have given that more weight going into this game. But, I wouldn't have predicted or foreseen 14-7 on the bingo card. Thought there'd be a little bit more scoring than that, even though you had a couple of new quarterbacks getting broken in for the most part, even though we saw a good deal of Arch last year. But, incredible defensive effort really by both teams, but particularly Ohio State. And you now get that taste of Arch and that full meal deal where when you don't play as well, you go from being the golden boy to the guy who everybody starts picking apart for his throwing motion and for his decision-making and for especially his lack of accuracy. That was on display on Saturday. It wasn't all bad, but when you lose, the negatives are focused on a bit more. And I think the saving grace for Texas is you lost by a touchdown in a 14-7 game on the road against the number 3 team in the country who's probably going to be number 2 or 1 when the polls come out. So I don't think you're feeling too terribly bad about where you are. It's not a loss that sinks you in any way. You could, lose another game and still probably be fine depending on who that is and what that final score is. So Texas will be all right, but I think they just ran into a team and on the road that can actually match up with them. And I don't know how often that'll be the case, even though it'll happen more often in the SEC. But Ohio State's cream of the crop, Texas is as well, and that was just a rock fight between two teams with really, really good defenses.
I actually saw a former UT player, not sure which one, the Achos, that was sitting there trying to say, hey, y'all, this is let's not get on him. And I get that. It's not Arch's fault that the buildup was like it was, but he was like, hey, he's one of the ones that was a part of the parade to build him up. He had a bad start. Others who have won national titles didn't have their first start like this start that went all well. They're going to be just fine, but it was a little surprising how off he was, and you got to give Ohio State some of that credit too.
Yeah, I was wrong about Matt Patricia. I'm wrong about a lot of things. I'm telling you that, both of you. Right now, I'm wrong about a lot of things, and I don't think it's fair to throw Arch out. Oh, he's not a Heisman candidate. He's not this. Who is a Heisman candidate after week 1? Part of it was just
Byron Brown.
Yeah, probably. That's a good point, Craig. It's a really
Kevin
good point.
Dampier.
Yeah. But but again, there's week 2 they could have the same kind of game that Arch did. That's just how sports works. You can have a good game. You can have a bad game. He did not meet the moment for the expectations, but God, who can? When you have such a run-up of – this isn't just one off-season of run-up. This is since he was a junior in high school run-up to when he was going to be a starting quarterback. And basically everybody started knowing, maybe a sophomore in high school when he started really getting recruited there out of New Orleans. So I think that after all that, let's just see what happens. He didn't play well. They didn't have him ready to play well. He didn't look like he has – in his other starts in the past. He had really bad arm angles. If I was a pitching coach and walked out there to be, I'm like, what are you doing right now? What is all this and why is this happening? But they have a really good coaching staff. Again, I don't know what happens in Columbus where games, the biggest games become the slowest games that happen. It all happens all the time. But, the bottom line is it's one game and we'll see, or maybe maybe just some of these teams aren't quite as good as we thought they were, and some are better.
Their number 3 team beats you at home, defending national champions. It was still close at the end. Texas has that knack. I remember Washington in the semifinals a couple of years ago where they kind of have that knack of somebody just doesn't put their foot on their neck. And they had the ball and a chance to go down the field and tie it, and a sack. And then I'll tell you what, it's a hell of a pass for Arch just to get that ball away. So they move on. They great game. It was not like 27-24 like Miami Notre Dame, but in the end, I sat there and go, man, one play is going to light this match or light this fire, and maybe it was the throw from Sayin to Carnell Lake that was the big one.
Carnell Tate, the name you're looking for there. But yeah, I mean, he and Jeremiah Smith, neither one had massive games, but that was a very important score, and just points were hard to come by. Again, 2 really, really good defenses. Give Matt Patricia a lot of credit. Probably should have counted more for him, in my own opinion, in the lead up to this game, but that didn't get nearly the coverage that obviously the Arch factor did. And all that matters, as much as that coverage gets drawn out, and hell, we're talking about Arch for 7-8 months, and not just him, but Texas in general. I don't know how much here we were talking about Matt Patricia, and it's just it's refreshing for the results to matter. And now we're talking about Matt Patricia, and it's not just the hyping up of this or that. It's the actual, like, all right, this is what actually occurred, and that's fun to do. So for Arch Manning, in the span of one game, it went from he's basically walking on water to, oh my God, he's human. And then for Texas, it was a reality of like, okay, now we're in not a hole, but we've got to make sure we don't let this turn into 2 or 3 losses, because then we might be in a hole for ourselves. So 0-1 out of the gate, not impossible to get out of. And again, I don't think they're going to play too many teams coming up that are the elite level of Ohio State. So don't feel like it's a bad loss. It was a little bit of an ugly loss, especially from the Arch perspective, depending on what you were expecting. But this was a great fight between 2 big-time programs, and a great win for Ryan Day and the Buckeyes, and excited to see what that Matt Patricia defense continues to look like throughout the year, because that was special stuff right there. And they've obviously got an offense that'll be clicking and putting up a lot of highlights over time as well. It just wasn't in this one against this Texas defense.
I saw somebody, I think it was Bill Landis, who was covering the game, also said, hey, Matt Patricia took some darts. How's he going to fit? It was a great game plan. At the same time, they are loaded. They might have the Heisman Trophy in their secondary. Caleb Downs, he might be the best player in college football. But still a hell of a game. If that would have been 20-3 or whatever, I was surprised that UT, like the wide receivers weren't getting open. And then when they did, most of the time, it was something like underneath, which could have been Ohio State making that happen too. Okay, now let's go to the next one. We're going to wait for Florida State Bama, because we have a lot to get to with that one. And Paul has been drinking whiskey since late on Saturday evening. Last night, let's do this one. Notre Dame and Miami. It looked like Miami had that thing in pretty good spot. And then here comes Notre Dame. Miami then makes the plays. What about the catch from Miami, the receiver, who's a transfer, one-handed catch? Was a hell of a game. 27-24. Hurricanes win that game at home on a late field goal.
Okay, so for what I can tell about C.J. Daniels' skill set is he either drops it when it's right to him or does that. And here's the other thing that's wild about that play. If the safety had thought that it was a catchable ball, he probably saw C.J. Daniels in half. Yep. But because he thought, well, this is not catchable, he actually did the smart thing and didn't get a 15-yard penalty, and C.J. Daniels made that catch. That was crazy.
Yeah, it was a hell of a play. And I just, again, 2 really good teams that are probably going to spend most of the rest of the year inside the top 10. Occasionally, maybe they take a hickey with Miami winning. Nice win for Cristobal.
It was a great win for Mario Cristobal, and one that I thought he was going to let get away there at the end, like is kind of Miami Cristobal fashion. I was totally ready to come in here today and call them unserious, because that's what I would have considered them. I think that would have been the most descriptive word for Miami had they lost that game last night, would be unserious. But to their credit, they closed it out there at the end, and I thought it was an excellent game, a very entertaining game. I got a little worried there. I picked Miami in this game. But there late in the third quarter, all of a sudden flags start flying. All of a sudden things start going a little sideways, and I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. I'm not a conspiracy theorist by nature, but just like, oh, this feels like Miami might start to pull away a little bit. Next thing you know, there's like 3 penalties in 15 seconds that all benefit Notre Dame. I was just like, okay, momentum swing, CJ Carr gets it going, and they score, and it suddenly becomes a very, very interesting game there at the end, and felt like, yeah, Miami was going to have a classic Hurricanes choke job, but and instead they get the dub, and I was very impressed by Miami holding on, because I really thought they were going to let that slip away, but I was really impressed by CJ Carr. I know it didn't play as well there at the end, but for the most part, I think if you're Notre Dame, you feel really good about what you have moving forward with CJ Carr. You see why they like him. Obviously not perfect, made some mistakes, but I think he's got something about him. He's got a confidence about him that's going to be a very good thing for Notre Dame moving forward. And I'm not going to spend time being much of a hater today, but I am just so wholly unimpressed by Carson Beck. Like I feel like I'm watching a guy who's supposed to be like this great thing, and I just watch him just like he's just so there, and that's.
I thought he was pretty good last night.
He was fine but he wasn't like elite. Like that's what I was expecting, was like elite football, and he was fine to good last night. He didn't like lose them the game by any means, but I just felt like when Miami wasn't scoring and Notre Dame was leading the comeback, and Miami, credit to Notre Dame's defense. I mean, that's a huge part of it. There's no receivers open. There's not a lot you can get going. So that's part of it. I don't know, man. I just feel like he should be more of a X factor, and he doesn't really feel like an X factor to me, but did enough to help get that win last night.
I agree with Craig. I mean, he's fine. I mean, he's better than most quarterbacks in college football.
Better than most.
Yeah, better than most. And you can't, they just had Cam Ward. I mean, and he's unbelievable. So, and he was on the way up. If Carson Beck was what he was recruited to be, he would not be at Miami or Georgia right now. He'd have gone in last year's NFL draft, which was really quarterback poor. So now he's going to go in this year's draft, which is really quarterback heavy, and you'll kind of see there's probably not going to be that much difference of where he was going to be drafted last year to this year. It'd be somewhere in the middle. But a middle round draft pick for a college quarterback is one you'd want to have, although you'd rather have a guy who is, first round and all this and all the potential's on the way up. Carson Beck's hit his potential. So he's there and he's fine. But when it comes down to it, as Miami gets down and plays more and more elite teams throughout the year, is the quarterback situation going to be the one where when you play a Cade Klubnik eventually, like they might, when you play in the playoffs, against somebody who's also elite, is that where it's going to get you beat? Or is that where the difference in those inches of things, like, okay, think about Drew Aller. Is Drew Aller ahead of him? So say they play Penn State in the playoff, if they get that far, is he going to be able to match that other quarterback, or is he just going to be there?
Yeah, I think Carson Beck's is above average, but I just don't think he's needs to be in the conversation with all the other really elite quarterbacks. And I was waiting for him to kind of play like an elite guy last night, and I was just like, I just don't think he's that level of guy, which is fine. He doesn't have to be for them to win. He doesn't have to be Cam Ward. But I also will say that it probably was a little bit of the play calling affecting my opinion as well, because it's not him calling the plays that were a little bit lackluster. It felt like they were almost trying to lay on the ball and just get enough for, run the clock out. And it's like, no, that wasn't going to work. And so they had to eventually go and grab some more points, but great job by the kicker. Nailing what's not a gimme, especially in college football. But I was very nervous about them missing that kick there at the end, and no doubt about it, if they had missed that kick, then Notre Dame's going to win that game some form or fashion. But Cristobal trusted in his kicker and got the job done, and so that was a huge win that would have been just another absolutely embarrassing loss had it gone the other way. And they've had a couple of those under Cristobal so far. So, you were definitely biting your teeth or grinding your teeth if you were a Canes fan last night, but they pulled it off. So that's an epic win for them. And I think Notre Dame should be favored in probably every single game the rest of the way. They're a very good team.
I thought CJ Carr, he did some of the dumb stuff when he was about to get sacked, and that's part of youth. But I thought I really like what I saw in him. He had the one pick, and I think that was a deflected throw.
That was a deflection that bounced up in the air. The
big
intentional grounding was
back in the 80s.
The intentional grounding was a really bad decision that cost them dearly. So, yeah, he made some mistakes, but I thought he had some swagger. I thought he played pretty well for the most part, and he's not going to have to be Superman when he's got the best running back in college football, arguably, and a great defense and a really good crew of wide receivers as well. So I think Notre Dame is going to be around until the end, much like last year, and both these teams could very well see each other in the playoffs again. But, yeah, that was a great way to end the weekend.
We will do other things here in this opening hour. We're going to look at a couple of the other key games. John Mateer's debut. How about last night, South Carolina, A&M, and what they did, their receivers and weapons that they've added. And we're going to do a summary, and we obviously will get into the Big 12 with Utah looking really good again. Again, one game, but at the same time, we'll kind of do that. But there's one more game to get to before we talk Florida State, and that's LSU goes into Clemson, and another knuckle dragger, and Nussmeier with just enough. LSU's defense was fantastic. Two teams that might play again in December or January, and Garrett Ross and his LSU Tigers get the dub. And Brian Kelly gets the monkey off his back on the opening games against really good teams.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem if the polls drop tomorrow and they're the number one team in the country. I think that would be more than fair to put them in that position. I'm interested to see how high Florida State jumps from being unranked into the polls, obviously. I'm interested in where some of these teams fall. I think Garrett Nussmeier's the number one overall draft pick in the 2026 draft coming up. I think LSU's a great team to have your odds on to win the national championship. And I know this is overreaction Monday, but I was thinking all these things just watching it. Like, I think LSU's the S. I mean, in the best way possible.
If that defense looks like what used to be LSU and what they were known for on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, there's that. They got to play to it, but the defense looked vastly improved, especially given the matchup, and made Cade Klubnik look very human instead of the guy who was arguably the other name to be the number one overall pick, or one of the other names to be the number one overall pick. Yeah, they made Clemson look pretty pedestrian a lot of that night, and just wholly impressed, across the board by the Tigers and that effort on the road. Weren't rattled by that. I mean, LSU, I keep saying this, man, they're just that program. They're not scared of anything. They just have a different aura about them that not a lot of other programs have, where it doesn't matter where you're playing or what the stakes are or whatever. Like, they've been embarrassed before. They've lost big games before, but more often than not, if it's LSU rolling to a big game, I'm going to put my money on them. I don't care what the sport is either. This is one where I didn't. I defaulted to Death Valley, which we got our whole tour of during the intro to that game. And I was sitting there thinking, this is way less cool the more they showed me the behind the scenes actually of Howard's rocking all this. I thought it was less cool as they were pulling the curtain back on the whole tradition. But nevertheless, it was a great crowd, and LSU was not intimidated by that whatsoever. They looked great. I mean, Clemson clearly still in it, still in the fight, and they have their own things to be excited about as well moving forward. But what a damn dub that was for LSU.
31 yards rushing for Clemson.
Yeah, they
31 yards, 16 yards from Adam Randall. 5 carries was their best run. The most among the running backs are yards rushing.
They gave up running the ball when they were leading the game. It didn't make sense.
When it was 10-3. Yeah,
they were leading the game, and they kind of gave up running the ball. And that's how that offense works. It's not pass to set up the run. It's run to set up the pass. And if you can't run the ball, then, it's going to be they have better wide receivers than they have in years past. But, they also had the last couple of years Will Shipley and then Phil Maffa, and they've got new running backs. But do we know that much about them? Because they only got the ball, 16 times or whatever you said, 31 yards rushing. Clemson's not going to win games that way. Now, they're playing one of the better defenses in the country probably with LSU and what they all have coming back. I mean, how many different Weeks brothers play there? They're all over the place. Whit Weeks, one of my favorite players. You got Harold Landry back. You look like you have defensive backs that are actual LSU defensive backs now. That can cover
all of them
bump with all of that.
Them did, yeah.
And you now have an LSU team that doesn't have to have Garrett Nussmeier's best game every week, even though he is probably as good as he's been so far in college. You don't need that when you're playing these elite teams. That makes them really scary down the stretch. And Craig, I totally agree with you again. I could have gone the rest of my life and never seen the buses drive the guys to the hill. That would be like if I was 6 years old and I thought the Muppets were real. And then I walked into the studio and saw a hand up Kermit's ass. I'd been like, what?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
This is not real. This can't happen.
Yeah. That was behind the scenes that was informative, but I really turns out didn't want to know that they have to make this walk and that they have the buses and they do the thing and they drive around the corner and they like all of the details to it. And the whole time I'm like, is this supposed to make me think it's even cooler? Because it's making me think it's less cool. Cause I just always was under the impression of like, they come out of the locker room or wherever. And like all we see is them just running down the hill. The thing about the hill is always just, I don't know how there have not been more accidents because it's so damn steep. Running down that thing, I just picture myself losing balance easily and tumbling down that thing. So it's a miracle that doesn't happen more often. But yeah, I did not need to see the behind the scenes of Clemson's walkout and Howard's Rock and all of that. I felt like it actually kind of took away from some of the mystique when you're like, from now on, I just know like they're just sitting there on the bus out back and just waiting for the cue to jump off in full uniform and come running out. But I mean, it's scripted. It was too scripted. Yeah, it's still a cool tradition. We don't need to see all of the stuff behind the scenes on every little thing. And that was one where I felt like they kind of took away some of the mystery or the mystique of it. But nevertheless, Garrett Nussmeier is not going to have to put up huge stats each week for LSU, like I think some other quarterbacks are going to have to do for their respective teams. I mean, just had the one touchdown, 230 passing yards, but was super efficient. I think the good news for LSU is it feels like they got a real deal running back. Again, Caden Durham, I feel like for like when it was like Josh Williams, you're just sort of like, it's okay. There's no star back there, but Caden Durham's got some star to him, I feel like. So you add that with the receivers that LSU is always going to have basically homegrown across the board and a defense that seems to have its mojo back. And yeah, LSU is, I think, the talk of the weekend besides Florida State, most likely, and Ohio State as well with the win over Texas. But that was one that was super impressive going on to the road. And even though it was only 17-10, it just felt like they owned that game for the most part.
Yeah, their defense made me feel like it. Clemson probably going to end up with 10 unless they get a field goal. We'll get into Florida State, Alabama when Paul takes vacation on Wednesday. No, but here are some notes about Alabama and the free fall. Kalen DeBoer, there was already a story about his buyout, which would be $70 million. I thought Pat Smith also had a note about that it could be as high as 90.
Yeah, he had it in the middle of the game. Yeah. Like, that was what was insane about it. Was like, yes, Alabama was, for all intents and purposes, getting their asses kicked. Like, and they did get their ass kicked. I mean, especially by Alabama standards, they got their ass kicked. For others that have been routinely blown out on a regular basis over the years, that's not even a standard ass kicking. For Alabama, that was an ass kicking. But I just felt like we got full display of just how Alabama, it just means more, or else it just means way too much, in that it's the third quarter and there's Pat Smith tweeting about the buyout and I'm just like, really, guys, like, it's game. I get it just means more, and it just is different. But I thought that was almost absurdly on point in a way. So yeah, that's how they live down there.
All right, couple more, and then Paul can tell us how the whiskey was late on Sunday evening. Here's another one on Alabama. Here's the fan when they got a shot of him. There's always some. I've seen all of the big schools when they've lost a key game. This is if you want a coloring book, here we go. This guy's famous, just like the guy from OU, the young kid that was balling, or the Texas girl that like did the finger. This is hilarious to me right here.
I'll tell you, I have nothing but respect for this kid.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't doing surrender Cobra. He was dealing with his emotions, truly. He just flipped the bird to the camera, and it was the best thing because the camera guy immediately is like, okay, gotta cut away.
Yeah. So they actually put this up on a coloring book, and I'm going to print that out and see if I can maybe get some of that crimson around the sides of him.
You want to get your crayons and you want to color?
I'm going to go by Walmart or somewhere.
Whatever takes your time up. Yeah, I mean, that was brilliant on his part. I mean, I guess everybody now knows you want the camera off, you throw up the middle finger is basically what he taught everybody. Yeah. So every time they want to get a crowd shot the rest of the year, if you're in that crowd shot or you're at a Coldplay concert with your mistress, just throw middle fingers and they'll take the camera off you, I guess. But yeah, that cameraman, I don't know if that was what you're supposed to react to, but he saw that middle finger and that camera went away real quick. So smart thinking on that young man's part.
I know the stadium so well. I know exactly where that guy was sitting, and I know exactly where that cameraman was. Even though they've remodeled everything, that stuff is still the same.
Yeah,
so he is right there, and then usually that cameraman works that corner of the student section, and then the opposing, where they are right there behind the Bama bench. And so if you are seated in that section, you're going to be on camera quite a bit. And I know exactly, he was not that far away from him, because sometimes you can get the crowd shots. They've never seen the camera. It's across the stadium. Somebody's doing this panning, but that guy was standing maybe 4 feet away from this kid. And as soon as he looked down and saw him, he knew what was going on.
Yeah, unless you're Brady Quinn's girlfriend, right? That had 4 cameras on her back in the day. AJ McCarron, exactly. Yeah. Was it Catherine Webb or whoever it was?
I can't believe you remember that name.
Because it came up. It came up, actually. All right, so what's the record now for Kalen DeBoer when it comes to Alabama being a 14-point underdog or better? He is 4-4. Nick Saban, and I know it's not fair, but he was, he's the GOAT, was 131-2. DeBoer's lost as many games against a 14-point underdog or more already in less than, 14 games or so than Saban did during the run of 130. In other words, no one ever stunned them. There was a couple, but that right there, man, Alabama fans have got to be scratching their head.
Well, what was the spread going into Saturday?
14 and a half.
It was 14 and a half. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I picked Alabama in this game, and this was the shocker of the weekend. I don't think you were surprised by LSU going to Clemson and winning, because that seemed a lot more realistic than even at home, Florida State beating Alabama, because we've been fed it's the same Alabama. It's just a different coach. All this recruiting and everything, and we got fed all the good stuff like every program pumps out during the offseason. But, man, what a wake-up call and a reality check for Alabama on Saturday. I kind of hate on the one hand that this is all about Alabama and Florida State's the team that won the game.
Well, we have a guest from Florida State.
Well, not just here, but in general. Everybody's tweeting about the game. They're not tweeting about Florida State. They're tweeting about Saban's contract, here we go. DeBoer's contract and his buyout. And it's not even hit all zeros yet. And that just extended into the rest of the weekend. And I get why, because it's Alabama. But, I feel like there's more talk about the team that lost than there's the team that won. I watched a lot of Tommy Castellanos at Boston College, and he was an impressive young man, and he had some really electric and exciting plays, but it was still Boston College, and it was just like, okay, cool. And when he went to Florida State, I think he even said last week I'm not completely sold on him being this gigantic difference maker for them, but he was. On Saturday, at least, he definitely was. He was Tommy Castellanos at his very best. I credit him. He stood on business. He talked that trash, as everybody talked about during the offseason, and everybody goofed on him, especially in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and in the SEC studios at ESPN and all over in this studio. Everybody, I think at the time I enjoyed that he was just talking some trash, but I think everybody kind of felt like, well, we'll see when the rubber hits the road. And man, there's the phrase "stand on business" that just keeps coming back into my head, because that's exactly what he did. And kudos to Tommy Castellanos for that performance and for walking the walk, not just talking the talk like a lot of guys do. He was incredible, and I think it does help that he's got a much better team around him, a much more talented team than I ever watched him at Boston College, so that's part of the difference. But he just has a swagger about him, and it goes back now. You look at that trash talk that was kind of dunked on a little bit, and it's like that's actually what helped win this game, was that kind of attitude, was that we're not going to bow down to Alabama. F Alabama. We'll show them. And I think that played into this game, played into the psyche of the Noles, and that's the kind of S in his neck quarterback that you want to have leading the charge, and those are the types of guys that usually win big. And so I think Florida State's got the right guy under center, and I think that he's brought some swagger to them, and they've got a lot of other talent in a lot of other places, and that was as impressive of a win as the entire weekend. I was happy for Paul, and I just pleasantly surprised by how good Florida State looked. That was huge for them.
Yeah, they took all of Nebraska's defensive staff. That's what they needed to do to make them. But they played with their hair on fire. You could see what it meant. Did that in any way, shape, or form? I know 2023 was painful. Travis getting hurt, not making the playoff last year was awful. Did you get your soul back when it comes to college football and Florida State football?
I think so a little bit. And look, the fact that Alabama's the team that got in over them, I'm sure that probably helped in the run up, because this is your chance to be like, all right, look, you guys took something we felt was ours. We're gonna end you today. Like that's was the general attitude. You go back and watch. I was a little nervous about Tommy Castellanos, talking like that, but part of me, like, it was devil and angel on the shoulder, and the devil on my shoulder was like, hey, maybe he's right. Maybe he's right. Maybe he needs this. But I start and the thing is, in the context of Tommy Castellanos, you've got a guy whose 2 best games in his life were against Florida State. They got closer than anybody else did to beating Florida State in the regular season in 2023. In fact, if not for a very stupid penalty that he didn't commit, but that Boston College committed at the end of that game, they might have handed Florida State a loss that year, which would have made this whole argument about the playoff moot, because they would have lost to Boston College. Right. Even if they had won the ACC, it would have made it moot.
Yep, it was a great win. I got to tell you, I was thrilled for you. I really was. Yeah. So
then you look at, okay, well, apparently he quit on his team at Boston College last year, but I do think that you need to look at the entire story of, he's a very brash guy and very confident. And the coach, Bill O'Brien, has a history of very brash and confident guys. When they speak up, he's just decided that that's not what he wants in his locker room. And I will harken back to when he was the coach and general manager of the Texans. For some reason, he and DeAndre Hopkins got cross. And I kept thinking about that, and I'm not blaming Bill O'Brien. He wants to set the culture that he wants. And if Tommy Castellanos didn't fit it, then that probably needed to happen there at Boston College.
Yeah, well, I don't know that he's going to be able to win games like that all the time. Like 9 of 14 passing, and he's going to have some games where he's got to throw it a little bit more. So I don't know that'll be the blueprint from them, but it was a great blueprint for beating Alabama. They had no answer for his legs, and he punished them in that rushing attack. And then the defense did a great job as well of making Ty Simpson very human, have to work for everything. And man, you talk about a young man who probably feels like the heat of 1,000 suns on him after Saturday's game, because that's just such a pressure-packed position. But I think Alabama will be okay. But there's just so many little videos I saw from Tide Boy 83 and, all these super fans that are pointing out like every little thing, like this wasn't Saban's Tide, this wasn't. And so that's what DeBoer signed up for, man. He was the guy that decided to replace the guy. And when you replace the greatest of all time, which I don't even know there's much of an argument for that at this point, then that's... You know what?
It's only being made better because of what Alabama's going through since he left.
It only, I think, further proves that he was probably the greatest of all time. But, yeah, they've been, I don't know about humbled, but they've been dealt a reality check that I'm very curious to see how they navigate it moving forward. Because, look, Alabama loses the game, they could very well go 11-1. It's entirely possible. Now, they've got a bunch of top 25 teams on the horizon, including a trip to Athens in about 3 weeks. That means they probably aren't going to just go 11-1. But that's a loss that you didn't see coming in that way. Certainly, you really didn't see coming at all, quite frankly. But it's not the end of the world. So I'm very curious. They got UL Monroe. That should be a win, obviously, and then Wisconsin, who we don't know a ton about just yet. And then you get into SEC play. So. Man, DeBoer's up against it, and it's an interesting storyline because we got so used to for them just running the whole show for years and over a decade. Pretty much every single year, and even their down years, they lost maybe a game or two, and they lost in the national title game, or they lost in the semi. It was always like they're still there, and right now they're in a place where I don't know where exactly they are at the moment, and that's a scary thing for Bama fans.
I don't think they do either. But it was more about, but Alabama's going to get that anytime someone like that goes down. But Florida State, after a year and a half of misery, get the win.
I also think, and look, I'm not here to start the parade for Mike Norvell yet, but he did do something that was unusual when it comes to, look, I don't need this 180-degree turn every year. If I'm a Florida State, then I am a Florida State guy. But I'm sure he doesn't need it either. But it didn't really and I don't know where they end up after this. I have no idea. I think that they showed that they're going to hang with everybody. That's all really I wanted this year. They're going to hang with everybody. My thoughts after the game were this: he made a 180-degree turn because he realized that he missed an opportunity to upgrade the coaching staff at the end of 2023. instead of letting some of the guys who had kind of hit their peak and were hot walk, they kept them and then they didn't upgrade. Well, getting Tony White and Terrence Knighton and Evan Cooper from Nebraska and then getting Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand is an upgrade. They've upgraded their coaching staff immensely on that side. Gus Malzahn had a masterful plan against Alabama. He knows the players there really well. He knows all of that. So that was great. On the other end of it, and so most coaches wouldn't do that. They changed their personnel and it worked out. I will say this for what's happened, and I talk about this a lot on the show, but when you have teams, this is not just about Alabama not being able to get the guys anymore. It's about the fact that Syracuse and Texas Tech and Louisville and all these teams who couldn't get 4- and 5-star players can go out and get them now. So like say of the 4- and 5-star players, there's 75 that you can get that would be divided like almost equally between 7 schools, right? Mm-hmm. Well, now if you take a couple of those away every single year and you put one at Syracuse, you put a couple in Lubbock, you put one at Cal, you put all these guys there because, well, now they don't have to go to these places to do all these things and money's all that. Then when you have big injuries like your defensive tackle, your right guard, and all these other things, you don't have a 5-star. You've got another 3-star that's coming behind them.
Yeah, the other guy's starting at Louisville that would have been in your backup.
Exactly. Okay. So it's changed everything.
No, it is. So, by the way, Diesel, thanks for the super chat. Alabama's dynasty left for Saban. This is one game. Florida State played very well. Now,
yeah, it's just one game. I mean, we'll see. Alabama could very well win the title. I doubt it, but they could. I mean, a long way to go. Don't want to overreact too much, but it does feel like that era where you just were guaranteed a playoff spot every year. That's not the era we're in anymore. It's kind of fun.
That Alabama defense and some of the videos about replays of it, they look like they had either were disinterested. That's not the case. I don't think they quit because I would never say that unless I knew someone or it was me. And I won't do that. It was the effort was bad. And they got run over. Florida State took advantage of that. Now, the Big 12. Not a great weekend, folks. Not at all. Auburn goes into Baylor, and Baylor's defense was like soft toilet paper, especially along the front. I asked Dave Aranda today in his weekly press conference, why did you not use a spy? Garrett was there during that time, and he kind of just basically said, because damned if they do, damned if they don't. But there was like Jackson Arnold was hurting them, 300 yards rushing. They are the only conference team, I think, among the A4, there's only 4, that does not have a ranked win, a non-conference win. Now, Iowa State beat Kansas State. They were both ranked, but not a ranked win. North Carolina, TCU tonight, which we'll touch on a little bit later. I thought Iowa State looked freaking great. When the game that I watched, I know they were not playing a big boy, but a good team. They looked across the board as like mid-season form as anybody else that I saw. But let's get to also, how about Eric Dampier in Utah?
Devin Dampier.
The basketball player. Yeah. Devin Dampier. Matt Leinart saying that for Utah, Devin Dampier is their Kyler Murray. That may be a little bit much, but he does make them look pretty excited. And we were told that they were going to have a bounce back year. It's just one game, but they look really good.
Well, Nico Iamaleava rolls into UCLA, and I think everybody in the country, including the 3 of us sitting here, we're saying like, well, if you want to get better, are you going to get better under Josh Heupel? Are you going to get better under Deshaun Foster? And so for right now, UCLA was completely overmatched by Utah in every way, shape, and form. Devin Dampier was fantastic. Their offensive line is dominant. Their defense looks like every Utah defense has ever looked. They've got 2 really good running backs that they can lean on, and it's going to be fun to watch Utah as the season goes on. They're a fun team that was, under the pall of what's going to happen at quarterback every single year because of Cam Rising, who is one of the best in their history, but Devin Dampier, watch out the rest of the Big 12. He is tough to deal with.
He was electric, and he was everything that you hoped he would be if you were a Utah fan. He was as advertised, and I think that Utah looks to be back, not trying to overreact, again, too much to week 1, but based on everything we saw in that game, Utah is back to where you'd expect them to be, and back to where they thought they were when they first joined the Big 12. And a big part of the reason was the quarterback spot, which was just so hit or miss the last couple of years. So, yeah, they were mightily impressive. I mean, Iamaleava and UCLA, it's just they were playing out in Westwood. Like, I don't know how many times they showed the crowd, but when they did, maybe it was when Utah had already had this game in hand, which was like the first quarter. But, I mean, just you were hit over the head with the apathy in L.A. about UCLA football, you know, especially compared to watching a bunch of the games beforehand and, like, how electric it was. It was just like, oh, there's a football game. It might have all been a high school football game out there. And the team from across the district rolled in and whooped your ass and didn't make it any better. I mean, that was a tail kicking. That was by far the Big 12's most notable win because it was a Power 5 win. And, yeah, it was a bad weekend for the conference. It was damn near disaster. Utah saved it from being a disaster. TCU could help soften the blow a little bit, but I'll have more on that, probably not on today's show, but on tomorrow's show, a conference segment what I'd like to do. But, yeah, that was a statement by Utah. I think that UCLA is a fine team. I don't think that they're going to go like this isn't a matter of, well, they ran into somebody really good and now they're going to go have a great season. I don't expect that with UCLA. They were not really all that impressive in my opinion, but a lot of that had to do with Utah. And yeah, Devin Dampier was great, much like Castellanos. He brings a swagger to that team that was definitely missing a year ago when you had the in and out of Cam Rising and then some young faces trying to fill that void. But for not being much of a passer, I mean, he was super efficient, couple touchdown passes, 21 of 25 for 206, nearly 100 yards rushing, opened the door for a lot of other guys to then add on another 200 yards of rushing because of the threat that he was and the ability to air it out a little bit. And then had guys like the crossover stars they had, like Smith Snowden, these guys jumping over from defense to offense. I mean, that's something that is not entirely new, but I just was really in focus on Friday night with Snowden in particular, among others that were playing both ways. And so I was impressed by that. I mean, I was, and obviously the defense is the defense. I never expect Utah to be anything but elite, but yeah, they just smothered Iamaleava and that Bruins offense. And that was one of the best, most dominant wins of the weekend that I saw, and one of the best wins for the Big 12 by a long. I mean, it was the best win, was it not? Now that I'm thinking about it, it was the best win because it was over a Power 5 opponent. I thought Iowa State looked really good. I don't know where you want to go with this, but yeah, Utah was spectacular.
No, Iowa State, though, they are going to host big noon kickoff this weekend.
Well, what was my sleeper pick for the Big 12?
Yeah.
Iowa State Cyclones. It feels pretty good to say that right now. We'll see in like week 10 if I'm still bragging about that one. But Iowa State definitely continues to look the part. Really impressive win over K-State, and then just handled their business. Now, this big showdown with Iowa in Ames. It's another big cross. There's a bunch of crossover games this weekend as well. So the Big 12 can make up some ground or save some face, or they can just get buried even further and basically ensure 3 weekends in that they're going to have one rep in the playoff. I mean, honestly, if you're like 1-9 in crossover games, what are you going to say at the end of the year, no matter how good your champion is? So this is going to be a really important weekend for the league in that regard. But thankfully there was a Utah there, and maybe an Iowa State this upcoming weekend against Iowa that can make a big thing happen for you there. But yeah, they are a smooth operating team. And I like the Cyclones a lot, and I think Iowa State Utah would be a hell of a matchup.
It would just be bloodshed.
I mean, it would be. I don't know if either team would be physically able to play another game after that, but it would be a hell of a matchup. And yeah, there's some other ones around the league that we can run through as well.
There's a few other updates too. And Brandon, don't worry if you don't have it, but Texas Tech dominated Pine Bluff, Arkansas Pine Bluff. They're not going to really get tested for a while. They're just a motor running. But yeah, Baron Morton did go down in what could have absolutely been a season-ending knee injury. Joey McGuire today saying at his press conference that he's sore, but that the MRI came back negative. It might be a little bit. They'll be fine. Will Hammonds is a heck of a player. We saw him play in high school at Huddle. He's fantastic, a dual threat. But that could have been like Texas Tech, probably more than anybody else that I can think of, seems to have more injuries at quarterback in the last 6 to 10 years as anybody else. But that was a scary moment.
Yeah, Tech played, I think, tougher scrimmages in the lead up to this season than what they got with Arkansas Pine Bluff. Respectfully to Pine Bluff, they're no match for Texas Tech. They never were in previous years, much less now with the roster that Texas Tech has. So that went about the way that you would expect it to, 67-7, and Tech could have probably hung 100 if they really wanted to. But the story was not the blowout, because that was always expected, much like another one will be expected this week with Kent State, and then probably another one with Oregon State, and then we'll eventually see Tech get tested to some degree in Big 12 play. Maybe Oregon State, maybe, but they did not look good this
past. If that game was in Corvallis.
Yeah, but like the Pac-2 nearly had, for having only 2 teams, as disastrous of a weekend as you could possibly have for having only 2 teams. Like barely squeezed out getting a win there. But, Tech rolled like you thought. A billion guys got involved. I mean, the bench got unloaded, and that's exactly what should happen. So, unfortunately, though, instead of it just being about like everybody got the ball and everybody got to play and everybody got to do this and that, it is about the injury. And so, with Baron Morton, this is the story, is it not, of him not being able to stay healthy? I mean, it's a continuous thing, and it's been not Cam Rising levels, but it has been enough to be just a thorn in your side. And so hopefully this is nothing too serious. Clearly it's not as serious as it could have been, so that's good news. Will Hammond got a lot of run in that game, and I know they're prepared, because they'd be stupid to not be prepared for the thought of Baron Morton going down, given how much he's been hurt. So he just can't. I hate to say he can't catch a break, because that would have been even worse news. But he can't seem to stay fully healthy very long, and that is going to be one of those subplots to Tech season, and that was going in, was like, hey, can they keep their quarterback healthy? And one game in, and it's already a thing again. So you hope that's not the case all season long. When
Will Hammonds took off on a long run, it was a long touchdown run. It doesn't surprise me. He's a fantastic athlete. Again, we got to see him. His first time I saw him, he was a junior. He was spectacular. The next time he played midway the next year, he wasn't quite as dynamic, but a very, very and that's why you have it. I mean, no matter who you are, if you have a quarterback that goes down, you want somebody to be able to step in. He's got a little bit of that in his neck too. So a nice win. Tech took care of business, but they had the scare with Baron Morton. Now, I mentioned Iowa State in the big noon kickoff.
And we'll return to Auburn Baylor because we need to.
No,
we just glossed over that.
I want to do you have the Willie Anderson tweet? Put this up, because to me, this pretty much summarized the whole night. So this, it was whatever Auburn wanted to do. Willie Anderson, the former All-American offensive lineman, during the game tweeted this out. Baylor's D-line is bad. Let's run it down their throat. They already were. They continue to do that, and he's right. And so there was a player watching Auburn run it right down Baylor's defensive throat.
Well, Baylor's D-line, I don't know if they're good or bad. I know they played bad the other night. I know that they had a severe size disadvantage. It looked like every time they were just getting swallowed up. I don't know if Jackson Arnold's really that much better, or because he was just able to run free all night long. I don't know what to they did not make Hugh Freeze have to go deep into his bag to beat him. And that's troubling, because, I thought that they would be much more prepared for that. Craig nailed it earlier in the week, said it's going to be about the running game.
Yeah.
And it totally was. I thought it was going to be
Coleman and
I thought it was going to be Coleman
Singleton
and
going deep a couple of times. Yeah.
They could have taken several drives just completely off. I mean, because Jackson Arnold in the running game was so good that, okay, maybe you need to get a third and 6, but.
And here's one of the things, and I did ask Aranda about that, Craig and Paul, that to me, you're going to lose a game. What would you rather do? Give up some big plays and you just can't cover somebody, or maybe there's going to be an incomplete pass. You get to the quarterback, or demoralizing, having somebody slam it down your throat, basically play after play.
I think it all happened to some degree on Saturday night or a Friday night, I should say. And I picked Auburn ultimately because I felt like they were just going to be more talented, and that kind of got some pushback last week in certain areas of it's just not that simple, but maybe it is. And guess what? It kind of was that simple, because their lines leaned on the other lines, and they were bigger, faster, stronger, better, and they manhandled them and forced and dictated the game. And so that's what was in my head last week was I think Auburn, whether middle of the road SEC or not, has recruited better for years now at this point and has more in their arsenal. And I just felt like eventually college football is about coaching, yes, but it's ultimately about talent. And I felt like Auburn had more talent in the more important places, not necessarily at quarterback, but on the offensive line, the defensive line, the secondary, things like that. And that's what eventually tipped that into me picking Auburn. Now, I did mention the running game last week because everybody was talking about Coleman and Singleton, and they had like half the yardage and touches that Cole Wilson had for Baylor. So they were factors, but not in hugely impactful ways. Like they had a catch here and there, but otherwise you wouldn't even have remembered they played in the game. Really,
4 catches, 43
yeah, I mean, it was nothing that was all that notable from those guys, but that's like what everybody's like Baylor's secondary. And I talked a little bit about that, but what I ultimately did end up coming around to was that everybody's talking about they're just going to go out there and start airing it out. They're just going to be like throwing bombs to the wide receivers. And I was like, no, I think it's going to be about like how they run the football, and that's going to dictate the game. What I was not right about was that a lot of it was going to be Jackson Arnold. Like I just figured they were going to run the ball, but I didn't specifically say Jackson Arnold's going to have damn near 150 yards rushing, which is what happened. And he quickly became the story of that game. You can go check my timeline. I had a tweet that was probably like in the late first quarter. I said, Jackson Arnold's legs are quickly becoming the X factor in this game. And I remember like pointing to you, like, do you feel this way? And you were like, yeah. And that was only the beginning of it because they really did become the X factor in that game. Now, the rest of the running backs were able to chew up yardage as well. But, I mean, that was the story, was Arnold's legs and Baylor's inability to ever counter it or account for it even, which was baffling because everybody's like, Aranda's the DC. Why is there not a spy on Jackson Arnold? Why is there – and, he described it, but yeah, Jackson Arnold's legs absolutely killed him, and Baylor's just power and size and muscle just wore on the Bears and dictated that game. And that was one that was a harsh reality for Baylor because not only did I don't feel like they played all that well. Particularly, I don't think Sawyer Robertson played all that well. He was taking a lot of hits in that game, was slow to get up a few times. But that was a reality check because you think that everybody's on par, or at least that's what you want to believe and what you want to hope, that you have just as much of a shot at winning the national title as not Georgia, because you admit like Georgia's better.
Right.
But we can match Auburn, right? Like Auburn's middle of the road SEC right now. Like we've got the talent. And I think what you got was a reality check.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case.
What was the difference, Garrett, Paul, Craig, in how that game went with Auburn Baylor than LSU Baylor?
I mean,
LSU
LSU
felt better after the LSU game because, up until about the time Washington went down, it was pretty much a very much a one-score competitive game. I never thought Baylor was going to come back. Robertson throws for a lot of passes, but also only completed 58% of his passes too.
I mean, LSU was throwing it around like crazy on Baylor. That was the difference. They were airing it out left and right against Baylor, and Nussmeier was just he was just tearing them up. This wasn't about Jackson Arnold throwing the football. This is about Jackson Arnold running around.
I know that, but it was like basically in the end they're about a touchdown or two better.
Yeah. I mean, LSU, like that just went from that was an ass kicking. That was 14-0 in the first quarter. That was 34-17 at halftime. So that was a kind of a different game. But by the end, to your point, for whatever reasons, Baylor did make that a competitive game. And by the end, if Ashton Hawkins' toe gets ruled inbounds, which was a very controversial call, I still maintain they probably win that game because momentum had gone so crazy in their direction that they probably win that game. But this one, they never felt like, hey, if this would have happened differently, they're going to win that game. It felt like, hey, if this happened differently, this call or this catch or whatever, they keep it close. But it doesn't feel like there's a guarantee they go and win that game. So, yeah, Auburn was clearly the better team, clearly the more talented team, and even in some cases the better coach team.
No question.
And so that was a tough pill to swallow and a tough reality check for Baylor, who I think will be okay, but they're just not on an Auburn level right now.
Now they got to pick themselves off the mat, play Dallas up in Dallas against SMU, and of course SMU winning or almost winning the ACC, being a college football playoff team. When we come back, we mentioned Florida State, Alabama. The poll that Andrew had up was which of the four results is the one that impressed you the most? Charlie Ward, former Florida State All-American and Heisman Trophy winner and men's basketball coach now at Florida A&M, will join us. And what did that mean to all of the great players or anyone who played at Florida State? This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. What does all that mean? As you get older, usually in late 30s, in the 40s, sometimes it takes longer, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men has symptomatic issue of low testosterone. For example, it could be as simple as your energy is not there. But then your energy could also affect you when it comes to your sex drive and performance. But if you don't feel right and you kind of keep yourself in pretty good shape, or maybe you don't, your testosterone level can impact all of that. How do you find out? Contact Dr. Petty at pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him I sent you. Tell him what you're calling him or contacting him for. He'll get your blood work set up. You go give blood. He gets the results. And if your testosterone level is too low, he'll put you in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Drive the Motor Trend Truck of the Year during the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a new award-winning Ram half-ton Laramie Crew Cab with $15,000 off plus 3.9% for $72, or grab a new Ram Lone Star Crew Cab, $11,000 off MSRP plus 3.9% for $72. Plus, Toyota, Ford, and GM owners get an additional $1,500 in savings right now. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Summer's heating up, but Bird Coaching Ford is freezing the prices.
Right now, get 0% APR for 48 months, 0 down, and no payments for 90 days. Cool off with us in our freezing showroom and catch a hot deal before summer's over. Whether it's an F-150, Explorer, or Escape, we've got the perfect deal waiting for you.
Whew. Texas weather can be crazy. Shop anytime inside our showroom or at bkford.com. Experience better at Bird Coaching Ford.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Thank you for the super chats. Diesel was able to give us one earlier today. Also, today fan funding includes Grateful 365 and also Stormy Cyclone. The Cy-Hawk Trophy stays in Ames. That's a hell of a game this weekend. And then we have one of the things about this show, and I've been in the business broadcast for 44 years or 45 years. This show in the last 5+ years, I think I've gotten to know so many people that are not even close to us that we don't know sometimes if you're out there. We just know the numbers, subscribers, etc. This came up in a chat, a tweet, from over the weekend. I live in Indiana. I'm not a fan of any Big 12 team, but I absolutely love your show with Craig and Paul. Watch it nearly every day on YouTube. Started back during realignment talk. It's a top 5 college football show in the country. Great chemistry, no fake hot takes, perfect. So I wrote him. Brandon Miller from Indiana, from Akron, Indiana, is a college football junkie. His son plays Division I golf at IU Indianapolis, and his daughter is a huge Huskers fan because she loves volleyball, which is what they're known for now, is volleyball. So great to have you. Thank you very much, Brandon, for that tweet.
Yeah, it was really good to hear. And we don't. I don't think do we have hot takes?
I don't. I purposely avoid them. If you hear me say something, I 100% mean it. I've never, I don't think, said something for the sake of a reaction. So I'll never be a millionaire on ESPN. But that's the trade-off for it. I'd rather be genuine than be pumping up fake stuff that I don't even hardly believe. But that's what makes you rich nowadays half the time.
I think sometimes we might say something that might be off the cuff or flippant. But no, it's just sometimes just because I don't think we're a clicks and views, although we do appreciate them. I think we are who we are, and I think that we're all, at times, we can be serious, no nonsense, and a little bit silly.
I think that part of it just, I mean, this tweet did my heart well to know that, like, it's noticed that we don't, like, that we do ask to the second level of question, because it'd be really, really easy to just, like, do the thing of, like, oh, LeBron James is this. And it's like, okay, well, you know, like, do we ask, like, well, why did this happen? Like, so it would be easy for us to come on here and be like, Bama's dynasty's over.
Well, it would be smarter to do that. Exactly. It would be smarter to talk about the same 5 teams, because you see bigger shows. They ask, well, why don't you talk about it? And they say, well, they don't get us the views. Well, we sacrifice that to talk about Iowa State or about Baylor or about Indiana or whatever, and not the same 10 programs that I see all the time being talked about. So yeah, I mean, there's something to that you need the views and all of that. And so you talk about Ohio State and Texas and the same 10 teams, but we try to give you a little something different at the expense of that. So hopefully for those fans that aren't in the top 10 fan bases do appreciate that, because we appreciate you and we like talking about some of the other teams that don't necessarily pull a major rating every time you bring them up.
Yeah, I thank you very much for that. And, the fact that we if we say something, we mean it. Sometimes those two, Paul and Craig, will look at me because they're like wanting to put me in a new nursing home, and that's fine. That's just part of me and my age, and sometimes forgetting things. But Diesel, Craig, he keeps it a buck, no change needed when he speaks.
Thank you. You didn't say that in the coolest way possible, but Diesel, I got where you're coming from, and so thank you, man.
He's Mr. 365 Sports, is Craig.
Means a lot to me. Appreciate it, and thank you for being a part of the show and for the $4.99. Yeah, man, keep rocking with us, and we'll have some fun this season.
What else do we have here? I wanted to get to that. Go ahead, then start it. If you got, we've listed a lot of different. There's so much to get to on a Monday. Charlie Ward will join us here momentarily.
The rest of the Big 12.
The rest of the Big 12. Colorado. Boy, Haynes King, think about the emotional week he had. His father being diagnosed with cancer, and then goes into Boulder, scores 3 touchdowns, the game winner, tougher than you know what. And somebody had a tweet about, is there anybody whose quarterback plays and resembles their coach like what Georgia Tech does for Brent?
No, Brent Key is a tough guy. His team is tough. Haynes King is afraid of nothing. He really does meet the moment well. I mean, look, no further than the Georgia game last year or this game the other night. The only thing I would say that I was, a little bit, I guess, disappointed in Colorado was you were down by a touchdown and they left 2 timeouts on the board as the clock ran out, or a timeout or so. Like they didn't really.
Well, Dion said, well, we went out of bounds a couple of different times, but you still had time to save another 15.
They didn't really. Yeah. It was very Jason Garrett clock management, if I had to say, where you're like, you either use the timeouts at weird times or you let them go. And like, that was just weird. Maybe they just felt that it wasn't the positioning, but I don't think they ran the ball okay. I mean, that better than they probably have. And then, Caden Salter looked pretty good.
Georgia Tech's a pretty good football team and tougher than nails, as I mentioned. We're now joined by Florida State Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, All-American, College Football Hall of Fame, and Florida A&M men's basketball head coach Charlie Ward joins us. We've had Charlie on this show. Great to see you Charlie, thanks for being a part of the show. We will get to your basketball program and that transition. You've been coaching the last few years. What did Saturday night mean to FSU alums and former players? You can't hear us?
Go ahead and call him. Okay, go ahead and call him on the phone.
I'm going to go off and come back on.
Okay. All right. Okay. We'll have Charlie Ward again joining us here in just a second. Now the men's basketball coach at Florida A&M with us. By the way, Brandon Rowe, Garrett Ross, and Andrew Valade running the mothership behind the scenes for us here on 365 Sports. As we and somebody brought this up earlier in the show about it being a holiday. Well, I remember Paul back in 2010. I was like, hey, we're going to do a show after the first weekend of college football. That's what we do. Listen, it'd be nice to be playing golf earlier today, but this is what we do, and it's time to do it, especially the first full weekend of football.
It's just weird how, this is what, it's accountants and, tax day. If April 15th was a national holiday, or whatever, I mean, tax season, we just can't, after the first one, go and do it. So it's just, we have to be here. Plus, it would be, could you imagine if after those, just the 5 games that got played between the ranked teams, the bangers this week, if we just waited a second day before we did
it would lose its steam, and then you're starting to already turn the corner on what you need to do for the upcoming week too. So, but we do have TCU and North Carolina tonight. That's a big game that's on display in the Big 12 against Bill Belichick and company. The Big 12 needs to put some games together. We have audio. Okay, we're working on getting Charlie Ward. So that was a nice UCLA. Oh, there we go. Hey, man. Charlie, thanks for your time with Craig and Paul. David Smoak. What did that game Saturday night against Alabama mean to former players like you, All-Americans or guys that played there? What did it mean to all of those, the fraternity of FSU?
I appreciate you guys having me on. And actually, it was just good and refreshing because last year was, not a very good year. By anyone's standards, but especially FSU, especially coming off a 13-0 year or 13-1. But it just helped restore the trust and faith that we knew was there. I think that having the new defensive coordinators played a big part in a lot of success. Also having some great leadership. I think that was very instrumental as well. The QB who made plays with his legs and his arm, was presented a threat. And then defensively, they stopped one aspect of the offense, which always helps. When you're trying to stop an offense or defense, you got to stop one aspect, and they stopped the run. So it was a good start to the season. Everyone has a rebound from whether they won or lost. But, to be able to beat Alabama, who's a powerhouse in the SEC, over the years, and for them to be able to accomplish that was a great feat or a great start to the year for sure.
Charlie, I'm class of 02 from FSU. Yeah, that's right. And it is, last year was just purgatory for the program, for Mike Norvell. It really impressed me. And again, it's one game, but coaches as a general rule, it takes a lot to change your mind and change your processes and all that, because you spend, and you know this as a coach, you spend a lot of time building what your routine is and what's successful for you. I came away very impressed with Mike Norvell and the 180-degree turn they made, because he took a real look at what they did wrong and kind of just went down the list and checked off every box. That is rare in coaching, I think, to be able to do that and to do it quickly.
Yeah, all great coaches, have to have a sense of accountability, and they have to look within to make sure that they're doing everything possible to give themselves a chance to be successful. And Coach Norvell, being a great coach, he did that. He understood that he needed to have a better handle on the entire program. And so relieving himself from the offensive coordinator duties was a tremendous blessing for the program, for him. But you also have to have people that you trust to be able to do that. And so Coach Malzahn is a great fit. He's a head coach, very good head coach that's now, overseeing just one aspect. And so you saw a lot of different wrinkles and different things that he's done in the past, but he's able to just focus on one side of the ball. So definitely looking forward to seeing how that continues to work out. And then it's just the defense was lights out when it came to stopping the run. And they'll continue to get better. Of course, just like every game, you have busts, mistakes, things that you get away with, but they'll continue to watch film to see how they can develop and get better from those mistakes. But just overall, kicking game was solid. Of course, everything can get better. But the kicking game was solid. When they needed points, they got those points necessary. But the biggest key was just seeing how the guys rallied around one another when the game got close. Guys stepped up and made plays. And that's what you kind of missed last year. And the offensive line was solid. In the run game, I think they had over 200 yards, which is when we were good. That was one of the staples, past few years is being able to run the football. So we'll have to improve passing wise, but when the run game is solid, it gives you a chance.
So you mentioned Tommy Castellanos there at the beginning, and he had success previously against Florida State when he was at Boston College. So I'm sure you saw a little bit of him there, but I was wondering just like how much had you seen of him prior and how much had you been hearing about him? And I mean, he's got a swagger to him. He obviously made those comments in the offseason about Alabama and Nick Saban can't save them. And he talked the talk, but Charlie, he walked the walk on Saturday as well.
Yeah, I'm a little different than all of that. But to each his own. I'm just a big believer that you talk with your play. And when you do make those statements, you have to back it up. And he was able to do that, which, we all have our different confidence boosters in the way we go about it. And so I was just proud of him and, not allowing the comments to deter him from, getting caught up. He played a really well played game when it came down to the quarterback position. Like I said, late in the game when we needed first downs, he made it happen. They gave him the ball. And so, you heard Coach Malzahn and everyone talking about the confidence they have in him. When you have confidence in quarterback to make plays and make the right plays, I think it goes a long ways in just his leadership. Hopefully continue to build upon that and, continue to grow to be a great leader that we know he's capable of being. But, at Boston College, he had a great start against us. So I actually saw that game. And so hopefully we can continue to build upon that. And there are going to be teams who are going to take away the run. So we got to get better in the passing game. And hopefully I know they will continue to work on that because we do have some dynamic weapons on the outside. And just like any great team, a team that's going to be destined for a playoff run or win a championship, you have to be well-rounded. And so I think from an offensive standpoint, we are well-rounded. The passing game wasn't quite the focal point on Saturday, but at some point it will have to be. And so we have to continue to push the ball down the field and give our playmakers on the outside opportunities as well.
Charlie, you played with guys that did have a little bit more expressive swagger, et cetera. You mentioned that wasn't your style. Do you remember any time when you were at Florida State where you might have said something that was kind of a little edgy, or that just, when I think of the word classy, I think of you, and I'm not saying that because you're on the show. I always have.
Yes, I mean, I had my moments. There was one time in Virginia my junior year. We were playing Virginia, and we had just beat Georgia Tech, and we were just bringing out the run and shoot, the fast break offense. That game against Virginia, and it was raining, so we weren't able to throw the ball or do the things we wanted to do from a passing game standpoint. But before the game, they were talking, their student body they were talking trash, before the game and the whole game. And I actually ended up scoring a touchdown. And then, what Thomas did to Alabama when he's made his first down on their sideline, that's what I did to the Virginia, student body. But those emotions happen, and you just get over it and keep playing, and you don't allow it to affect you in any other way.
I would just going back and thinking the guys that you had on those teams, and that was kind of, I mean, again, everybody kind of, formulates behind the leaders. I mean, Derek Brooks on that team, Warwick Dunn, like you guys have personalities, but you weren't braggadocious. Who was there a guy on the team that was the loud one? But that vibe of 93 was more kind of stand on business.
Yeah, we had a few. But the one from on the offensive side was Kevin Knox. Knox gave everybody business, regardless of who it was. Practice, his own teammates. He gave everybody business. He was a good talker. But of course he backed it up with his play as well. But Knox was a guy who was very competitive, and he hated losing. And so he talked to everybody and got everybody in trouble with his mouth, because he was picking a fight that somebody else had to battle. But that's just who he was, and we knew that, and just have to roll with it. But he's a very good player.
Charlie, we've had you on before when you were coaching in Houston, and now you are the head men's basketball coach at Florida A&M. The transition about what it meant to you back in the spring when you got the call and you're going to take over the program.
Well, it was definitely caught me off guard. I was getting ready. I was in Portland, Oregon, getting ready to coach the Nike Hoop Summit game. And I was there that weekend, not even knowing that I would be in a different position coming back home. But my wife gave me the blessing to be able to do it. And I was blessed to be able to talk to my associate head coach, who gave me the confidence that this would be a great move because of him being a part of the team. That's Coach Jared Lazarus. And then once it happened really, really fast, like 5 days. It was, game on, and trying to figure out, the next steps, because I felt like it's a great stepping stone in a sense of going from high school to college, and me not having to move, which was a big kicker for me, taking the job. And so it's been a great, it's been fast paced, but it's been a good pace for me. Been able to meet alumni, recruiting, the guys that we have on the team, gelling, and getting prepared for the season. And so all these things are things that, I was kind of doing in high school or preparing to do. We didn't really have a chance to recruit, but preparing for this moment in high school because of my experience, in the pros and also playing in college. And so just being able to have resources, people that I can call to help me with the fast track or give me wisdom on certain things, that's been great. To be able to rely on those coaches, men and women alike, and so I'm just moving right along, and we're working to get better each and every day.
One of the guys he has on the roster, Anquan Bolden Jr., another son of a Seminole legend there, and Charlie, I having just spent the time I did in Tallahassee. I wish you so much of all the best there. The fan base at FAM, the community there is so awesome that when you get, it's just a fun place to be, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, right now we're in the honeymoon period. You know, we haven't played any games. And we've generated a lot of excitement from the guys that we brought on roster. You talked about Anquan Bolden. We have some Power 4 guys as well. Naheem McLeod is, Power 4 center that's with us. And so we have some quality players that we're going to have to contend to gel together because, a lot of guys are new, just like all of us. But so far, we're off to a good start. Like no big adversity has hit us just yet, but we have a good bond. Guys have been gelling well together, getting along in a sense of, when they do get upset at one another, how do we overcome? How do we, get back together so that we're all on the same team? But they compete well, compete hard in practice. So those things are, things that you need in order for when adversity does hit during the season or when it does hit, we're one unit. And so I'm just excited about the year. My guys are working hard, doing extra to make sure that they're prepared and ready. And so we're trying to get them right.
You played under the great Bobby Bowden, and you were told you could play both sports. He honored that request. He also kept his promise to you, and you ended up, of course, playing in the NBA as well. How much of his football coaching, or is it just how he ran a program as a coach, affect who you are as a coach?
I've been blessed to have a lot of great mentors, guys that I've played for and coached with over the years. And Coach Bowden, of course, his whole mantra was God, family, and football. That's essentially our motto as well. I was blessed to be able to play for my dad and also some other coaches, great coaches in high school. And then, in college and the pros, just great coaches when it came down to X's and O's. How they ran their staffs, how they ran a team. So all those experiences, I'm pulling together to make it our own. And, the one thing that we're big on is, coaching the whole student athlete. We definitely here in college, education is something that we all want and should need at some point. But we're also athletes as well. And so how do we bring those two together? Because at some point, just like myself, the ball stops bouncing. And relationships that we build, the jobs that we have, and not everyone's going to be a coach or they may go in a different profession. But how can we give them opportunities to be in front of CEOs and others to develop relationships so that when the ball does stop bouncing, they'll have a group to be able to call on, to be able to garner that support, very similar to how I've been able to have a network of people throughout my years because of just building relationships over the years. And so we want to make sure that we're doing everything in our power to give them that opportunity.
Was for you in coaching, you mentioned your dad, was it like one of those things that even maybe if you ever kind of considered like it's not this time, did you always kind of know that you would be coaching, that it was just something you were going to have to do?
No, I actually was trying to figure out what I was going to do after I retired. And I felt like before I retired that I don't know if I could be a good coach because a lot of things I thought I did was instinctual, which some of it was. But when I started thinking about all the experiences I had of the fundamentals that I had been taught and all the drills that I had gone through and, watching film and just all the things that I'd been a part of, that I could be able to give back, those same attributes and things that someone gave to me. And so my wife and my mom was like, you've been in athletics all your life, and you probably be a good coach. And so Coach Jeff Van Gundy gave an opportunity to be an intern the year after I retired, and I was coaching up and putting plans together for couple of the young guys on the team, and I enjoyed it. And then the opportunity came for me to be on the bench or behind the bench or be one of the staff members. Start doing game plans, and all those things just started to snowball into kind of what I'm doing now. And so it was just a great blessing to be able to get that start and be able to support someone else's dream.
Charlie, good luck with Florida A&M with what you have. I mean, that clock is ticking, practices, workouts. Next thing you know, games are around the corner. Absolutely love what you the kind of person you are, and also what you've represented along the way. Thank you so much for jumping on with us when you have. Good luck moving forward, and it's great to see you.
Well, it's good seeing you all as well, and thanks for having me on.
Charlie Ward,
Strike Rattlers.
Charlie Ward, Heisman Trophy winner, the 93 national championship team, of course, with that bang game ending with Nebraska to finally give Bobby Bowden, and how he had to wait one more play on the kick that was no good after Bentley had kicked the field goal and had to make him wait. And then Osborne finally got his the next year, and then a couple more after that, and so did Bowden in 99. Great guy. Appreciate his time on the FSU win.
By the way, I just now remember this. He punted a little bit before he was the starting quarterback.
Was he really? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not like he wasn't, but he punted a couple times.
Yeah, it would not surprise me.
Yeah, he was North
Paul
Florida
Catalina.
Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, just the Florida State win, and a nice win. And then, in fact, a great win because it's against Alabama, but also I thought Doak Campbell, there was a video that came out over the weekend, probably yesterday, where they were playing Soldier Boy or something. And the players were dancing, the crowd, and it was loud as hell, just about a minute video. And you could see what they were enjoying themselves for the first time in a year and a half.
Well, last year was a good year to go 2-10 because they were remodeling the stadium and it looked really bad. If you watched any of the games last year, there's a whole side that people couldn't sit on. So there was no atmosphere to follow up a 13-0 regular season the year before. And all those things happened, and they took some seats out. And so it's actually apparently louder now. I talked to a couple of friends of mine that were at the game that said it's actually a little bit louder because they've closed in. Kind of like when A&M did the zone, Kyle Field was already loud, but then when they walled off that other end zone, it created a barrier for the sound to bounce back. So yeah, everything's really exciting for them right now. And they've got East Texas A&M, Kent State, and Virginia before they play Miami. So that's another big rivalry coming up, but they've got to just, get better each week and do all the cliche stuff. But I think it should put everybody at ease that if you're watching Florida State and you're a fan this year, that they can hang.
Yeah. They competed.
I'm not ready to give a full indictment on Alabama or a full pardon to the staff from last year or all that stuff. But the bottom line is they played excellent.
They have talent.
Yeah.
And knows what it's doing. And again, White, the defensive coordinator, is really good at what he does. And you can see that along the way. Well, around the corner, Todd Whitten, Charlton State football coach, on their win. Yep. How about that? The win against Army, and Charlton State's having themselves a great run. Do you want to go back to some of the Big 12 here or break and then come back? Because then it's going to put us up a little bit too close to Todd Whitten. Bennett at 5. Phil Bennett today at 5. What do you want to do?
What do we
break?
didn't?
You got a break?
Yes. No break.
All right. You just lead the way if you got anything. Okay.
So what didn't we get to on the Big 12?
We were talking about Colorado, and then we got cut off by having to take a break. So Colorado is where I think we should probably start, because that was the one game we hadn't talked about that was one of the bigger games. Because the K-State thing, that wasn't a big opponent. We need to get to them though as well.
K-State.
But no, we'll get to them. I want to stay on track with Colorado here, and then we'll get to K-State. But that Colorado, you saw that Shedeur Sanders was a pretty good passer. He was a pretty good passer. And Caden Salter, while a terrific athlete, just not the passer that Shedeur is. That's going to be a major adjustment for Colorado, and it was definitely a major adjustment for their fans on Saturday. And I think the big storylines coming out of that is a lack of belief now in, well, not now, but it's kind of been building and I guess maintaining the lack of belief for a lot of people in their play calling. A lot of complaining about the play calling coming out of that game on Saturday. And so between Salter not being the sharpest in the pass game and then the calls themselves not being very popular, that was the kind of the big complaints that I saw more than anything from Colorado fans. And then from the fans who are fans and not just like the ones who believe Deion walks on water no matter what he does, I think there was a little bit of like, oh, crap, we might not be as good as we thought we might be this year. Now, it's an overreaction to game one, and you're playing a pretty good team in Georgia Tech. I think Colorado still has enough weapons and talent to make things interesting, but the offensive line wasn't dominant like you hoped that it might be, or a massive step forward like you hoped maybe it would be. It was just a game where a lot of your warts got exposed. The fact that Salter's not the greatest passer in the world, the fact that maybe your play calling is not where it needs to be, the fact that your offensive line still needs some work, your run game still needs some work. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's the case for, I would say, the majority of the football teams that are out there currently. Everybody's walking in today, with the exception of maybe a few, and even those teams feel like they still have stuff to work on, but most people are like, damn, we got a lot to clean up. And I think Colorado is one of those teams that definitely has a lot to clean up, giving up all that rushing total to Haynes King in particular. That was a bad thing for the defense as well. So yeah, there was a lot to poke at when it comes to Colorado that they need to clean up or improve. And if they don't, then it could be a much longer season than what last year was for them.
If you're that was again a chance to beat somebody else who's a Power 4 school, and especially with it at home. I'm still amazed by the resiliency of Haynes King. Turnovers early, and yet they win the game. He scores 3 times. Good for him. And the Yellow Jackets put a tough loss, not only for Colorado, but also yet again the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, and like this is what I go back to though, guys. Why how many times did I say it throughout the offseason of like, this is why I don't like making everything about that. Like let's root for our arch rival so the Big 12 does good, you know? Like that's where I have a disconnect, I think, with some of the fans who are just all in on the league itself. But when you set yourself up for that, and it is like, in whether you are pro that or not, it is a reality of like, you just got your asses kicked on this week 1 schedule by the power teams. The big make or break games, we'll see tonight. Maybe you'll save face and you'll end up going 2-3 as opposed to the 1-4 that you could end up being, or could have been even worse and you could have been 0-5. So whether you have a rooting interest or not, there is that perception that does matter, and their perception is the worst out of the Power 4 coming out of this weekend. It's not even particularly close that they are 4 out of 4. So that is a little bit worrisome. I don't think every game has to be about, well, we got to do this for the league, but there were games that were important for that discussion, and they failed the test ultimately because they're going to go under 50% on those wins, no matter what TCU does tonight. So yeah, that was a little bit jarring. Although for me, honestly, like, I expected all those results. Like, I didn't do as well nationally on the picks, but the Big 12 games, I thought Auburn was going to beat Baylor. I thought Georgia Tech was going to beat Colorado. Like, I thought all those results were going to happen the way that they did. So I wasn't really shocked by it. I was hoping, though, for more. I was hoping that maybe a Baylor could upend an Auburn, and unfortunately that wasn't the case. So, yeah, it was a bad weekend. Thankfully for Utah, they added something there on Saturday night that otherwise would have really poured salt into the wound.
It's you got to win. You got to win. And you're right, though. I said, Colorado, whether I like Colorado or not, you got to win. And you can't, had Baylor beaten Auburn, there would have been some of that. It would have been a little bit of the Big 12 as much as it would have been for Baylor. Or if Iowa State beats Iowa, I need to go back personally, forget about all the other. I need to go back to, like, if I don't like a team, whether they're a part of the Big 12 or not, and they win, doesn't mean I have to like the fact that they won.
Well, here's the other thing. As like I talked about earlier with Alabama and the fact that, like, you can see that the roster is not as strong. And that's the case for pretty much everybody that wants the same kind of roster now. I mean, there's still going to be the ones who get more than others, but, like, it's not, they don't have a corner on the riches as much. But how about because we're so concerned about conference. Why don't you just look at the teams that everybody play? Because ultimately, Georgia Tech, Colorado, and Baylor and Auburn and all these other, like TCU and North Carolina, if none of those teams are involved in the 12-team playoff, then what do those games matter for conference versus conference? Really, I mean, how far down the line of the transitive property do you have to get?
Well, I'll actually go into this in a segment I'll do tomorrow, but the bad part is that I think of the losses, you start comparing the ACC. The ACC had more losses. The ACC lost to better teams. The ACC lost to ranked teams. The Big 12 has not lost to a ranked team.
Yeah.
Auburn's not ranked. Georgia Tech is not ranked. I mean, UCLA wasn't ranked.
Auburn will be 8 by the end
North
of
Carolina's
tomorrow.
not ranked.
Yeah.
Like,
no, you're right.
You had the ACC. You got freaking God, let me try to. Clemson's losing top 10 LSU, and I'm trying to think of the games off the top of my head now. So
Florida State. You're talking about wins or losses?
Talking about losses mostly here, but I mean, even if you want to do that, okay, Utah beat UCLA. Well, Florida
Virginia
State,
Tech, South Carolina.
Yeah, Virginia Tech lost to South Carolina, and I had this all ready to go for tomorrow, but I mean, I'll just talk about it a little bit now. So you had 2 wins out of the ACC. They beat the number 6 and number 8 teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They lost they lost, if you count Notre Dame, 5 games, but that was kind of one where it splits hairs, but let's not even count Notre Dame. So Syracuse lost to top 25 Tennessee. Stanford lost on the road by a field goal at Hawaii, so that's not great, but it's kind of, you go, okay, well, it's Stanford and it's on the road to Hawaii. Virginia Tech lost to South Carolina. Clemson lost to LSU. Those are all top 25 teams. So they lost more, but they lost to better opponents. And so I think that, yeah, if you want to do the whole conference thing and you're a Big 12 fan, this week, it's not a good week. It was not a disastrous weekend, but it was pretty close to it. And you're going to be battling perception more now than you were even a week ago, because now there are results saying, no, look, you didn't just lose. You lost to the middle of the pack teams, and you can't really play we're better than the ACC. By what metric?
Yeah.
By what metric are you better than the ACC? Because they've got a couple teams that just won top 10 games on opening weekend.
Yep.
So that's the pickle you put yourself into with the results this weekend. And if TCU loses to North Carolina tonight, then that would just be way, way worse news. If TCU can win tonight, that at least saves a little bit of face where you get a couple wins with that and the Utah win. But yeah, Baylor not only lost to Auburn, but they got manhandled by Auburn. Cincinnati, that was a great effort against Nebraska, but just fell short, unfortunately. And that's not one you were really banking on them winning anyways. And then Colorado gets beat by Georgia Tech, and they got a lot of chances early on with all those yellow jacket turnovers and couldn't take advantage to the point where it shut Georgia Tech out. So, yeah, they just rode Haynes King's legs the rest of the way and kept them in that game and ultimately put them over the top. So I'll have a full breakdown, I think, for this week and then maybe next week as well, because there will be more crossover games where we can get more into, like, because everybody wants to talk about it so much. We'll talk about it. It just may not be great news for the Big 12. Certainly not this week.
We're not going to sit there and sugarcoat it.
No, I mean, like I said, I don't BS. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I'm not the propaganda. I'm not Peter Burns for the Big 12. There's other guys that can do that or probably do that. But I'm not going to do that. So just calling it like it is, it was a bad weekend overall. And from a national perspective, they've got another crack at it this weekend where they could reverse some of that damage. But we'll see how that goes.
By the way, Ethan Pritchard, a freshman at Florida State, linebacker on the Seminoles team, was shot, remains in critical but stable condition. He had gone back to his house, back to his hometown, and that happened over the weekend. That was something that kind of obviously soured the weekend otherwise of what happened when they beat Alabama in Tallahassee. When we come back, what a win for Charlton State. They're 2-0, beat Army in an incredible game. And, of course, we've discussed all the momentum they have. Todd Whitten, their head coach, then Phil Bennett. This is 365 Sports. I usually go to the Facebook page of the Baylor Club and look at what they have coming up, but I got a feeling with today being a holiday and coming off what they've been, the stretch they've been on, that there's some people that are relaxed and enjoying today, and they should be, because they got a lot done, hosted a lot over the last 6 to 10 days, including that concert a week ago, and then the game Saturday. They have all sorts of changes in the look inside the Baylor Club. One, as a club, wherever it might be, it's located inside McLean Stadium. They've got great food. They have tremendous top chefs that will cook great food and not afraid to try something and even have like little tastings. Like, hey, come on by someday and we're going to have this. See if you want us to put this on the menu. And then just all of the energy and the bandwidth that has been inside that stadium since they, of course, hosted the concert and then Auburn on Friday night. The Baylor Club, it's a part of a place where you can have great food, meetings, luncheons, symposiums, banquets, and more. And then, of course, also, like I said, great food and amenities. It's the Baylor Club. Nick Colwell, the general manager, inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in the Brazos River in Waco.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Todd Whitten, Charlton State football coach, joins us. He's been with us before. We've had the president. We've had Steve Urias. We coach Mr. Hurley. And Todd Whitten joined us again. I thought the tweet from Charlton football was great. It just said, mission accomplished. I was kind of monitoring your game. Todd, I know you've had some big wins. What was that one like to be at West Point and win that game?
Yeah, that was really huge. so happy for our whole program, players, coaches. It was really a fun night. Certainly the biggest win we've ever had here at Charlton. So, it was, everybody said it was unexpected, but we've got a big senior class, and I think we've got a pretty good team. And I know as coaches and players, we felt like we could go in there and compete. Just mattered if we could get a few breaks, maybe a turnover or two, and we were able to do that.
It is, every time we've talked to a coach that plays one of the service academies, it is different than every other game you have to prepare for. So your scout team, it's the hardest week that they may have ever had because you're throwing things at them kind of in real time that they're going to have to do. And then all of those things. What did you learn about your team in preparing for a game like this where you have to throw all that at them? And it was already a big one for you guys anyway because you're playing a school with a history of Army.
Yeah, well, I learned we got a lot of tough guys, tough-minded guys. We played the previous Saturday out at Portland State, and 6 days later we played in West Point. So kind of had a short week. Thank goodness we're allowed to spend more time during the summer months nowadays working with our players. And so we'd spend a good bit of time working on the option. And so we were ahead of schedule a good bit. But, a lot of the guys on our squad, they'd never even gone against an option team. There are very few people in the Texas high schools run it. And so, really all new for our guys. And I think it was 2019 when we played Eastern New Mexico was the last time we saw a triple option team. So, really great accomplishment for our football team and, against a lot of odds.
Coach, take us through just what goes through your mind in the overtime period, especially, I guess, double overtime. Both you guys kick field goals, and then they miss theirs, and you have the opportunity to kick it and win it. So can you take us through the sequence there at the end and just kind of what all floods through your mind and then the jubilation when you realize the kick is good?
Yeah, greatest feeling in the world. I would have to tell you the truth. A little bit of praying in there. I just got a lot of confidence in these guys. We were able to win 10 games a year ago and had a really good season. We lost some production on offense, but we got a lot of really good football players coming back. And so I'm really confident in our guys. And so just the way we all through the summer and then camp and, really everything we've done, man, they've been completely locked in, full speed, great leadership. And so I had a good feeling. I felt like it just might be our turn. A couple of years ago, we lost a couple close games almost in back-to-back weeks in overtime. And so, these things have a way of coming and going for you. And so I felt like maybe it was our turn.
Todd, with all that Charlton has done, and we've tried to tell that story along the way, can you measure what a game like this means to all of the momentum that's going on, whether it's the facilities or the march to get into higher levels of what you're doing? Can you kind of put this into words?
I think so. I mean, yeah, monumental, just as big as it gets, I think. And we needed that as we're trying to find our way in this Division I journey. Our goals are really high, and one day we expect to be playing in the FBS. We're not sure when that's going to be, but in the meantime, we want to compete for championships and we want to make the FCS playoffs every year and be one of the best FCS programs in the country. And so right now I think we fit into that category. So still got a lot of work to do. We're far from arriving, and we don't feel that way at all. But we have been getting better and better really through kind of with each year as we've left Division II and gone into Division I FCS and we're continuing to improve, I think, both in recruiting, on the field, really in everything that we're doing.
When you get into an overtime game, how much does – do you get to enjoy it in the moment, or is it terrifying in the moment? Because those are like those special situations you work on at the end of practice of, we're going to be here and this is our strategy. What is it like in the mind of a coach when you're like, okay, it's overtime now, normal things don't really apply?
Yeah, everything's moving kind of fast. The other day, before on game day, before we played Portland State, somebody said, well, game day's finally here, Coach. I know you're excited for that. And I thought, for me, game day is like 3 hours of gut wrenching hell. It's tough duty out there. But, and you get into the overtime deal, and it does. It kind of, a lot of things going in different directions. You always want to try to play on defense first. We played down on, in our student section, which, by the way, we had all of our ROTC kids were there. We probably had 300 or 400 fans in our end zone. And so we played down there to get started. We both kicked the field goal. And so we had to go down to the other end after that where their cadets were. And that's where we ultimately won the game. But the kicker transferred to us from Angelo State, Larson.
Yep.
And he really had kind of been our backup, and our starting kicker had a hip injury. And so Larson stepped in and obviously did a great job. But so, yeah, you just never know. And, Larson's just such a fine young man. And so I was really happy for him as well.
So how much does the EECU Center, which is state-of-the-art with what you've done, sports medicine, coaches, student, all of it, integrated nutrition center, locker rooms. Tell me what that's like to have that available now.
Well, it's just huge, really. I think, anytime we do something really big on our campus, it benefits our football program. And we have gotten plenty of things for our football program. We've got a new weight room, and our stadium's been remodeled and redone and enhanced. Our field house has been gutted, completely redone. I think we've spent about $45 million on football over the last 6 or 8 years. And so we're really blessed. We've got probably one of the nicest coliseums in the whole state of Texas at any level. Mm-hmm. And so, you bet that'll be one of the first places we take our recruits. It's just absolutely first class, but really our whole campus is like that. And so Dr. Hurley is just really aggressive with getting things done and doing them now. And so we're blessed. We're really thankful for the commitment that we have in athletics that, starts with our president, Dr. Hurley, and really kind of trickles down all through campus.
Yeah, I mentioned Steve Urias as well, director of athletics. So you had these 2 long trips. Now you're home against Mississippi Valley State, Jerry Rice's alma mater, but you're home. How much do you need to be home after the 2 long trips and the emotions of winning at West Point?
Yeah, it's that's going to be big. We've got great students. Our fans, we draw really well here, and our students are like no other. They'll be out there, and we'll have a full stadium. And so, as a football team, we need to play at home, but we also, for our fans and our students and our campus life and all those things, I think it's certainly time that we get home. And so we've got 6 games on the road and 6 at home. And so be kind of heavy at home as we go down the stretch in late October and November. So thankful for that as well.
Todd Whitten, Charlton State football coach after the win at West Point, SFA grad, coached at Sam Houston State. You've had success. You have a hell of a record at Charlton State. You've settled in there and have been there a couple of different times. Your thoughts about what you've created? I know all the other stuff we've talked about, but Todd, this is now a winning culture and has been for a while.
Yeah, just blessed. I had the good fortune. I played for a guy named Jim Hess.
Yes, sir.
And he gave me my first job as well. And the thing that he was the very best at, I thought, was evaluating. And he could pick out a player and tell you he could play when nobody else thought he could. And coming up through the small college ranks and being a head coach and all, I think that's critical. And so I think that has helped me as much as anything. But Tarleton's my school, and it's so I'm so thankful that they'll have me, and we've had good success, and I think we're getting better, and so our program's blessed, and me personally, I've been really blessed for this opportunity as well.
Something just hit me that you said a few minutes ago, and I thought about how much times have changed. When you said most of the kids that played here have never seen the option before, like if Emery Millard's ghost was like walking around, he'd be like, "What?
Yeah.
What would I do all this for?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?" Like it was when you were like, that was the only thing that you ever saw, like for years, and then now you're telling kids like, "Oh yeah, you have to like." Watch, there's a back that's only 2 yards behind him that he might give the ball to.
There's a sniffer like right
what's
behind
going on here? Yeah, it's got to be wild.
Yeah.
I took a little time every day during practice and walked around through the defensive drills and whatnot. And I asked a bunch of the guys, most of them I said, have you ever played against a triple option team? And about 8 out of 10, the answer was no, never seen it. And so I was really kind of curious, but that's the truth of it nowadays.
Yep, and if you don't get that right early, man, you are screwed, because then they confuse even more. Jim Hess, by the way, is the one that found Tony Romo when the Cowboys were getting ready for the draft, and not many other people knew of him because he was the player of the year at what was it, Eastern Illinois? Where did he go to? Yeah, Eastern Illinois. Yeah. But he's the one that went to the Cowboys and said he was a scout for them. Unbelievable coach, won a national championship at Angelo State and, of course, elsewhere. Todd, congratulations. We'll get you on again. Really proud of what you've done, my friend, and congratulations on a great weekend, too.
Thank you for having me. It means so much to us.
Yeah, Todd Whitten, Tarleton State football coach, and Steve Urias, Dr. Hurley, and more in what they've done at Tarleton State. When we come back, Phil Bennett, on his knowledge and experience and what he saw over the weekend in college football. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, today being Labor Day, and that means they are ready for you to come in and get a hell of a deal as they start the month of September, but also celebrate the holiday. They're open, looks like we're on the air. They have a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo X for $35,326. Adaptive cruise control, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, automatic climate control, backup camera, blind spot monitor, and forward collision warning, along with power, sunroof, park assist, keyless entry. Things you want, the amenities you deserve, and are available inside that Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo X. Again, $35,326. The 2025 Dodge Hornet GT all-wheel drive is just under $29,400, has almost everything I just mentioned that you'd want, and the amenities of a new car available for you right now. Ted Teague is the general manager and CEO. David Gray is the sales manager. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, ready for you even today at a holiday. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560, or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Our great friend of the show, Mondays during football season, and a lot of times during the off season, he's on the road, so we're not able to see that unbelievable backyard. But Phil Bennett, longtime college football coach, joins us today on 365 Sports. And Phil, it's like the film don't lie, and we saw some things. We saw a couple of teams we thought would be pretty good that have, things are going on. Let's start with that Texas-Ohio State game. Did Ohio State get in Sark and Arch's head with what Patricia did on the defensive side of the ball?
I really think, Smoak, that what I looked at, knowing and playing Sark, I thought he called the game very cautious.
Yeah.
And that could, and I thought about this. It could be for 2 reasons. It could be, the pro stuff that Patricia's done, but it could also have been, trying to groom Arch, giving him things that would give him confidence early. But obviously he was very conservative, and I think it hurt him. But also I think Arch wasn't on rhythm. It really didn't have, everybody wanted to get down on him, but I still think he can be a good quarterback. He just didn't, that wasn't the game. And I think that the other thing you look at is they had some crucial penalties, on defense that could have really been a game you walk out there saying, boy, our defense won this game for us. But the penalties hurt them. But that's what I saw. I thought Patricia did a really good job. I went back and I looked. They kept the secondary coach. They kept the corner coach. So there was a lot of guys that were on that staff last year, and they did most of the things that they had done in the previous years.
If Arch Manning was my starting pitcher, Phil, and I walked out to the mound in the middle of that game, I'd been like, what's with all these weird arm angles you've got going on? Like, it just felt like he kind of got in his head a little bit, and then his mechanics, maybe more so than anything, changed. And for the great ones, that's kind of, especially a Manning, the mechanics, that's just always what they fall back on, is like, okay, this isn't going well, but if I do everything physically I'm supposed to do, then it'll be fine.
Paul, I thought that's a good observation. Now, I will say this. You go back and look at him last year against Mississippi State, the games he played in, he is a little bit of a whipper. I mean, he's sort of a sidearm whip guy with great velocity. But, there were so many of the balls that he didn't set his feet. First play of the game, they ran a bubble, a now out there. He threw it behind. His accuracy was really poor in the game. And that's the thing that got him off to such a bad start. The other thing that in the game, he had 2 or 3 times that the routes, Ohio State did a good job in coverage, that he could have taken off. But he chose to stay longer and took the sack. And I think that hurt him a lot.
Coach, man, so many different directions we can go here, but I guess I'll choose to go the direction of Florida State and Alabama. How impressed were you by what you saw from the Noles and their new quarterback there in Castellanos, his ability to run? And are you sounding the alarm on the, I guess the dynasty ended when Saban retired, but for those that thought it might just continue on because DeBoer would just pick up, are you sounding the alarm on the idea that Alabama will just cruise for forever and ever?
Craig, the first thing that I'm going to point out is Gus Malzahn has a history of beating Alabama. And I'm going to tell you why he has a history. You know, last week, and David, you remember this, all of you, we talked about Coach Aranda talking about when he was at LSU that he didn't have to worry as much about schematics because of the guys that he had. I'm going to tell you a quick story. You know, Nick Saban called me when I was at Baylor, wanted to have a big clinic of our staff, defensive staff, and his defensive staff. And I was curious. I said, what do you, he goes, Phil, I know that our league has been a pretty much cookie cutter league. Everybody does the same thing. We don't spread the field out. We don't tempo it. We don't do the quarterback run game. And he said, it's coming. He goes, I want to be ready. He said, and so I look at Florida State and what they did with the quarterback run game, just like I watched Auburn beat Baylor with a quarterback run game and with a power zone. And schematically, those things even up things. Art Browse used to tell me, he said, Phil, if we can't block them, I'll make them where we have free people, where our backs. I'll make them indecisive in their fits, and it helps our offensive line. And you know, we had one year we had 3,000-yard rushers. So I think you're seeing that from Florida State. I'm not willing to give up on Alabama. I think that the coordinator is. I think the quarterback will get better. Defensively, they'll get better. I think this scheme really gave him fits. I think Gus's Reed quarterback and Catalina did a good job, but I also think they sort of tricked them a little bit with that.
You know, when I remember when Malzahn actually visited Baylor. In 15 or so to learn some of that. Not that he didn't already have his own ways, but I remember when he came in because I sat down and talked with him about everything. So I know that there's ways and you don't have a success here after you have success here. Why is it then he has had success and it's not just Alabama, he's won elsewhere. Do you think he was refreshed by getting away from UCF and having just to worry about the offense or not?
Absolutely. You know, Gus is a football. I mean, he's a purist. And when I say purist, he loves the schematics. He loves the fundamentals. He was frustrated with the speaking and the presentations and raising funds. And he was frustrated. He's a coach. That's what he wanted to do. And, you know, he's the guy that basically taught Mike Norvell everything. You know, it was Todd Graham hired him. Mike was on the staff, and those guys all had a bond, and they all he's very creative. I played against him a couple of times, and it was he's fun to try to defend, and he's good. And I think if you don't understand numbers, which a lot of people, I say this again, I told you that story, Smokey, when Nick wanted me to come down there and all meet, and Art said, absolutely not. You're not going. But that's what Art could do. I mean, that's what people didn't understand. I mean, we could lose a whole line and come back and rush for 220 yards in a game.
Phil, when you look at what Notre Dame and Miami did last night, that was two really physical teams. Corey Hetherington comes in from Minnesota. Miami defense was abysmal last year, but they're physical and tough. And I know Notre Dame lost.
Very sound.
Yeah, I know Notre Dame lost the game, but I came away feeling better about them down the stretch, the way that C.J. Carr responded when they needed him to play his best ball.
I thought it was the best game of the weekend. I mean, it was nip and tuck, and you saw kids. You're right. You saw kids get better during the game. You know, Notre Dame lost a lot of defensive guys too, and they got better and tougher. And you know, you saw the rebirth of the quarterback from Georgia. in my opinion, he was the difference in the game. Him and the receivers and the two ends at Miami, there were some difference makers in that game. And I think by no stretch is Notre Dame done for the year. I mean, Notre Dame's going to be a good football team. I agree with you.
Do you feel confident in saying, and again, we're talking about one game, but do you feel confident that Brian Kelly has the LSU defense's mojo back there in Baton Rouge?
No, I don't. And I'm going to tell you why. I was extremely disappointed in Clemson's offensive attack. I watched them against Texas and Cade and what he did and the people and how they called the game. They spread it. They used different tempos. They did none of that in this game. And after the game, I looked it up and listened to Sweeney's explanation. He said, well, we had some younger receivers and running, but we're trying to be a little bit, and I thought they hampered their quarterback. I really did. I thought that if they would have opened it up, I think they could have taken advantage of some things that LSU was doing. I think LSU is going to have a problem down the road being sound in run fit and a couple of different things. I'm not sold on them right now.
Phil, you mentioned while we were talking about another game, but you mentioned what Hugh Freeze and Auburn did. They slammed the ball right down Baylor's throat. Today I was at Dave Aranda's Monday media session. I asked him about the spy. Why was there not a spy? And I can't hear anything very well, but he basically said that the way that they were set up, and I never really, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's what it was. He said if they didn't do that, then they're just going to start throwing it probably over the top of those receivers.
All-American, probably a first-round pick at receiver, and Cam Coleman, and then you got Singleton. What did you see? It's almost like if I'm going to die, I don't want somebody gouging me for 300 yards rushing.
I thought the first thing that I thought, David, I saw that, the scrambles I could sort of live with. That happened. They missed a couple of tackles. You had some guys beat some people and miss plays. I think number 9, is there a number 9 Baylor tackle? I mean, he broke through, missed it. Now the power reads where they ran the jet reads and he scored and those things. That's schematics. You got to practice that. I was disappointed that Baylor didn't do anything. There was no kind of field pressure or change up. They didn't move people. They didn't run their linebackers through. That's how you counteract those things. I didn't see any stop calls. The one guy that was hurting them, the one guy in the run game, I think it was 137 yards, was a quarterback. And there's things you can do in that power. When Art and them used to run it and we had RG3, I say, you're going to give the ball on that wide run because we're going to crash down and we're going to hold for the quarterback. That's who he's always reading somebody. If the guy's taking the other guy, he's keeping it. And we didn't seem to have a rule that we had practiced that. Now, I'd played Hugh Freeze when I was at North Texas, and he was at Liberty, and that was a huge play for him. I was just surprised that Baylor was not better prepared for that.
Phil, did you get a chance to see any of Tennessee this week when they?
I did. Yeah, I did.
What Joey Aguilar had to deal with in the spring was not of his own making at all. Like he's getting ready to be the quarterback at UCLA, and then somebody who they think is better than him decides that he wants to be the quarterback at UCLA, and they just have to let him go after they went and recruited him and everything. I thought watching him play was really kind of awesome.
Let me tell you something. I bet you Josh Heupel is glad. That's the best quarterback play they've had since Milton was there. I mean, hands down. I mean, that kid's a winner. And he was impressive. Now, I also watched the other one. And they probably, that kid that's the offensive coordinator at UCLA was our quarterback at Pitt. And I'm sure he's thinking, I picked the wrong guy.
Coach, I want to go back to the question about Baylor because they have SMU this week, and that's a team. Rhett Lashley, Miranda made mention that they're going to see a lot of stuff they saw against Auburn against SMU. In Dallas, I don't know that atmosphere is going to be like that big of a factor, but you never know. Did you walk out of that game feeling less than expected about them, or is it a matter of just cleaning up some things and you think there's something to work with there? And how do you think they try and fix things ahead of a Rhett Lashley offense?
I think number one, I liked their effort. I thought they played hard on both sides of the ball. I thought there were some things, a couple of penalties on offense, drop ball, right before, I think it was before halftime when I think it was number 1 or 9, the seam route, what probably would have scored. I just don't ever think they ever got in a groove on either side of the ball. And obviously, when you have a kickoff, that was a game changer. But with that said, I told a friend of mine, I said Baylor and it reminded me a lot of the LSU game. Baylor did enough things to win, but they did way too many things wrong to win. I mean, they did some things late in the game. The quarterback waited late to get going. I thought that our routes, when we started, we could have run the seam route forever on them. And I thought that the run that we went down to the, I think, 2 or 3 yard line and got called back, those kill you. And that I really believe could have overcome the defense. So, yeah, I think, no question, I think this game is a really good matchup. I watched the highlights of SMU against East Texas A&M. I think that's what they call it now. But they're a good team. But I can remember when I was at SMU playing Baylor, and it was a 10-9 game, and this game is probably as close athletically as it was back then. And then, of course, when we were at Baylor, we never had a problem beating SMU. And I think SMU is a formidable opponent. But I think Baylor can get back on track.
How much do they hate the schools in Texas that SMU? One, that when they did grow into the Big 12, they were left out. Of course, so was TCU, so was Houston. But how much of that is they cannot wait?
They don't like Baylor.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't like Baylor. They don't like Baylor.
That's what I was getting at.
It goes back history. Methodist and Baptist. They call Methodists cheap Episcopalian. Because they, a Baptist, if they smell liquor on your breath on Sunday, they'll report you. With a Methodist, they'll just say, "Hey, you know what? My wife's Episcopalian." So it's crazy but they don't like each other. When I was at SMU, there was a how'd Baylor get in, and it was always that Ann Richards story. That's how they got in, and we got left out.
Yeah. By the way, did you know that James Lockhart is now coaching at brand new UT Rio Grande Valley, who won their first ever game? I saw that.
I did know that. Brian Campbell, who I offered, he was an all-conference linebacker at A&M. I knew, of course, you remember his dad, Lucky.
Oh, he's nuts.
And Alto.
Nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, he was nuts. But I'm going to tell you, Brian was a great player. I offered Brian when he was like ninth grade when I was at A&M. And, but yeah, I've sort of helped him with their staff. Mike Schultz is the offensive coordinator down there. He was Franchione's coordinator both at TCU and A&M. And he was the head coach at Lamar. So they have a really good staff.
My last question, and I know, Paul, you have some too. Phil Bennett, again, longtime college football coach. Mondays to kind of overview and look at what he saw over the weekend. We had Todd Whitten on just recently from Charlton State, and they're trying to move up the food chain, as you know, and they go to West Point. And I bring this up as a great win. He said the best win in that program's history, which I get. They're at West Point. He had 8 out of every 10 players on his defense that he was walking around during practice had not seen the triple option. And they were able to handle it because if I know that's like walking into Chinese or some kind of a foreign language. If you don't know it,
doing Chinese arithmetic.
Yep.
I told him if Emery Billard's ghost heard him, he would.
He'd be devastated.
He'd be haunting Charlton's halls right now, saying, "What I do?"
It's amazing when you put rules together and simplify. I got to watch some of the game, and I'm telling you, they forced some issues, and you know what? He did a good job offensively. Also, they took advantage because they knew they weren't always going to have the ball. You know what happens in games like that? Your time of possession gets all discombobulated, and he took advantage of hit some big plays, and he had some long drives that kept the ball away from them. Listen, Todd Whitten, when he was at I think he was at Sam Houston, I begged him to come to SMU and be my offensive coordinator, and unfortunately at that time he was going through a divorce and just couldn't do it. I think he's a really good football coach.
That's an SFA guy.
Yeah. Do you remember Jim Hess?
He brought him up on the interview during the interview. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Jim Hess. He's a disciple of Jim Hess, and Jim Hess was one of the finest football coaches that's ever been in the state of Texas.
I agree.
He played at Rice. He coached at San Angelo. Then he went to SFA. Then he went to New Mexico State. One of the few people that ever won consistently at New Mexico State.
Yeah, he won a national title with Angelo State, then came to SFA and took them to a hell of a run. And then Lynn Graves took over that program.
Exactly,
Paul?
Sure did.
So, Coach, you're fighting Texas Aggies. Found some receivers. Very clearly. Look, I thought Jeff Traylor took it to them very physically early, and that's something that they're going to have to get worked out against the run. But if they can throw the ball around like that, they're going to be really dangerous.
I thought they both receivers were good, but I'll tell you something. I thought Jeff and them did a tremendous job. They had a punt return just like Baylor had a kickoff return. They had a punt return that broke the game open, that literally sort of got him off. You know, UTSA kept the ball, Paul, most of the game. They kept it away from him, and A&M did. Their receiver Concepcion and the kid from Mississippi State, they were good. And I thought the quarterback was sound. A&M's got to be. I'll tell you something. They'll have their hands full. That A&M Notre Dame game in 2 weeks could really be a big one. But I thought the quarterback at A&M played well.
Hey, we didn't ask you this when you took your trip to Europe and you did all the stuff. You told us about, obviously, the beaches and then the history there of the World War and then the Eiffel Tower and all of that in between. Was there a place that you ate some food that you wish was in America?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. There was a place in Rome that it was crazy. It wasn't, how do you say it? It wasn't total pasta, but they do such an unbelievable job with seafood and pasta and bread that, now don't ask me to spell the name, but we found everything we looked at over there, we had requisites about where we were eating. So, it was all good. And, my wife was just telling my daughter, by the way, my daughter, Maddie Passwaters, is 35 years old today.
Wow.
And I'm going to tell you a quick story. 35 years old, I was getting ready to play Washington. I was at Purdue. And you know who their quarterback was? Mark Brunell. How about that?
How about that? Yeah. The lefty.
And he was a hell.
Yeah.
And Terry Johnson, an all Big Ten safety for me, played his you-know-what off and ended up tipping the ball at the end of the game. I think we lost by 3 on a field goal at the very end. But, no, every place over there was good. They had good that we were at was good.
Hey, man, enjoy. It's here. College football is here. Got a game
it's
tonight.
Here.
TCU and Bill Belichick.
Yeah, listen, that's a game I'm going to watch with great interest. I think TCU is going to be better than people think they are. and Randy Clements is on the TCU staff, and they're playing a team that I think. Did you guys read this? Where UNC has 70 new players. 70,
a bunch. Yeah.
So I don't know. They got the South Alabama quarterback. It'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to watching it.
Did you watch the quarterback at Utah late Saturday night? Did
You know what? I did. He played good.
Yeah. The transfer.
Yeah.
Devin
Dampier. And I even saw like Matt Leinart said he's their version of Kyler Murray, which
yes, he is.
Okay.
He was good.
Yeah. They got.
I'm going to tell you this: UCLA had no chance on defense, none. I mean, he was. You're going to look around more and more, and those people that can extend plays and move. If you can't, I'm going to tell you something. I was surprised. You talk about the LSU Clemson game. Nussmeier has better movement than I thought he did. He really does.
It's a great win for Brian
Kelly. He keeps plays
Kelly.
alive.
Yep. I just love those games, those what we call bangers, like Clemson, LSU, and Ohio State, Texas, and others that we saw.
Well, I'm going to tell
you,
I'm excited this week for the Baylor SMU game, because I'm telling you, SMU thinks they can beat them, and I sort of got fired up. I saw Aranda get pissed off. He got sort of into it. He's going to have to do that more and just do a better job on the. Don't let that quarterback beat them the way they did Saturday or Friday.
Yeah, Jennings, the quarterback at SMU. Yeah.
I just came and I'm not. This is not a knock on Hugh Freeze. Like, I really wanted it. Like, I was curious to see how he would attack things, or like what is different. That you have a much more talented quarterback than he's had his first 2 years at Auburn, but because they could just run the ball at will. I mean, he didn't really have to even flip his play card over half the time.
No.
It just kind of was like, all right, I'm not going to go in the bag if I don't have to.
Paul, the truth of the matter, the running backs didn't. I mean, they ran okay. But when you get a quarterback averaging almost 10 yards a damn carry, I mean, that's a killer.
Yeah, it's demoralizing. Yep.
Yeah, and still, think about this. To me, and you guys tell me if you agree, I thought last year Baylor was better than LSU and should have won that game. Too many missed opportunities. That was a replica game against Auburn, in my mind. Anybody that tries to tell me Auburn just came in and bullied him, that's bullshit. They didn't bully him. They schemed him.
That's why we have you on right there. That's why we have you on. Thank you very much.
Some of those A&M people tell me SEC they didn't bully nobody.
Yeah, no.
I'll tell you this: Jackson, the quarterback, Arnold, he did the same thing to Alabama and rushed I think he rushed for 170 yards.
Oh, in that big upset to close out the year last year, right?
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's great to see you. We got a great
All right, guys.
of you. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Phil Bennett on many things. I know sometimes during the year when he'd have takes last year during some things, he was like, people remember what he has to say. Most of the time he's right. He's not always right, but nobody is. But love the feedback, the experience that he has, and also the knowledge.
Yeah, appreciate his insight as always, and sounds like he was just as excited as we were to get this football season off the ground, to have some games to watch, and man, it's just refreshing to have some results and some actual storylines that are based on not rankings or although we'll have rankings discussion tomorrow, but they're not built entirely on what ifs and unproven things. It's like, no, here's the proof in the pudding. All that talk about this class or this portal or whatever, like all that adds up, but you never know until they roll the ball out there. And we got a full taste test this weekend, and it was pretty damn great. And so I'm excited to see what twists and turns week 2 has, and still have a day or so to continue to look back. But man, it was so great to have basically nonstop football for the last 2 or 3 days. Obviously yesterday I had a little bit of a break until nighttime, but a couple games that we're on were enjoyable. And then tonight, another one. So excited about TCU in North Carolina.
I just sat there on Saturday with no game to cover, and I got myself some queso and sausage dip and just sat back and enjoyed one game after another.
You know, Florida State winning made it easy for me to enjoy over the rest of the games because I was just so excited about that. And plus I had a little bit of that Johnny Walker Blue that Kim Coulter got for me, which was delicious. It's the first time I'd ever had Johnny Walker Blue. It was smoky and tasty and wonderful. But yeah, it was just such a fantastic weekend. This weekend, like, doesn't quite follow it up as far as like the marquee matchups, but I do think there's some really interesting games that are coming up that we'll talk about later. Well, you guys will. I'm here tomorrow and then gone. But I think that there's some really intriguing stuff going on, and the way that you see it, like it's too early to figure out what the narrative is, but there are certainly things that bear watching. You know, as you go on, as you're going to say, okay, how much does this hold? You know, is Alabama really just not good, or was Florida State really good, or what's the team going to be?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's obviously Florida State has a rhyme and a reason. Yeah. They were well coached. You could tell they got a little bit of that swagger and having some success early. Who scored first in that game?
Alabama on a very long drive. And then, you know, I thought, well, I mean, Florida State didn't have they're not together, they're not gelled. They did what they did in 2023 and they responded like they used to. That would happen a couple years ago where, you didn't have a good drive. Well, then guess what? They went and scored. And then the next defensive drive, they responded. That was what they couldn't do last year. Well, first of all, they couldn't do anything good. But then if the other team did something good, they responded by like 4 different bad things in a row. Mm-hmm. And that's a sign of a bad team and not a good team.
Snowball.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, how long has Baylor and SMU played? They've played like 80-something times. You got to remember that they were a Southwest Conference for a long time, and they've played a little bit since all of that changed up. But this is the 75th, 83rd meeting, I think, between the two. So they've got a deep and long and lengthy rivalry.
Yeah, when Baylor actually opened McLean Stadium, SMU was the first opponent. I guess that was back in 2013. 2014. That was the first opponent was SMU. Is a much different SMU program than it is now. Never could have told the Mustangs back then they'd be in the ACC or that they'd be in the college football playoff. Hell, the college football playoff wasn't even just getting off the ground at that point when that game was played. So, and when it was a 4-team, whole setup and all that jazz. So to tell them all these years later that they'd be in the ACC, they'd be in the playoff and all that. It's a far cry, but yeah, I wouldn't say there's really a rivalry that I've noticed because they don't play often enough, but there are similarities in that they're two small Texas private schools and both fighting for attention and respect. And so now that SMU's on a more even playing field and I don't know, maybe has more money. I don't know where all that is comparatively, but now they are not in a place where Baylor or TCU or whoever can look down on them anymore. Now they're looking eye to eye, and that makes this matchup this time around a lot more unique because now there's some real stakes in it, and there's the ACC versus the Big 12. There's the in-state recruiting. There's who's higher than who in the pecking order inside the state of Texas. So, yeah, there's some spice to this game that there really hasn't ever been before this unless you were a fan of the Southwest Conference, and even then, I don't hear people really recalling the SMU Baylor games all that often. They talk about Texas, they talk about A&M, they talk about Tech. They don't really. There weren't a lot of SMU Baylor memories I think I've ever heard of in my time.
Not unless you were in school at the time, right. And you've been a lifelong Baylor fan, and none of us went there. Although we've covered them, I remember that first game. You're right. It's been a lopsided. I think at 13 consecutive wins for Baylor in the series, but that's also during a time when SMU had been suffering quite a bit from the program being basically shredded. So that one, someone asked that question, so I answered it for you. Brandon, do you have that one? All right, you want to break here?
Yeah.
Let's break. We'll come back. I love watching Twitter on college football nights, and obviously it's spread from what we even saw Thursday night all the way into tonight. But a couple of funny looks at college football. We'll do that and more. Paul's top 5 around the corner. Andrew had polls out earlier today. We'll hear the results a little bit later today. And this is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. Dr. Rob Maxey and partners had a dream to build a business that was a chance to, one, help you, the customer. Yes, it's a business. It's that too. But make it easier and more affordable for patients or people who have things that hurt, body parts that are not feeling right, whether it's because of a muscle or maybe a bone. Yeah, x-rays can do a lot of that when it comes to broken bones and much more, but MRIs can help you with ligaments and muscles. I know, for example, that one of our viewers, Kim Coulter, has been through excruciating back pain. I've had some back pain, sometimes worse than others, but not being completely shut down. And I'm going through some treatment with just a little bit different than what I've had before. And I'll get to that eventually at some point once I've had more than just one appointment and see how it's going. But Kim's back's not good. Vertebrae, all of a sudden, knobs that are back. And so MRIs will find those, see what's happened, and maybe that's not what it is, but you're going to find evidence, just like film when coaches look at it after a game. Ideal MRI, state-of-the-art imaging machine, and the affordable part is crazy good at $497 or less every single time. The average MRI is $1,300. I remember one time I went to a health system, and it was like $1,600. I'm like, what? And I had great insurance too. It's idealmri.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Penny to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com. This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
So I enjoy when A&M's at home, and of course they had the win against Jeff Traylor and UTSA. This is one of the great follows on Twitter. There's a lot of them, but this is the one during a game. Intoxicated, that's not funny, but intoxicated subject, Section 121, vaping and arguing ejected.
These are some of the funniest things.
The way they just
vaping and arguing.
Yeah.
This is called the Bobert, by the way. But the other one that I saw was drunk and disorderly, released to sober wife. And like the thing was like, oh man, he is about to have a rough weekend.
Yep. There's also been some that so-and-so, this and that, friend or girl, whoever it was, will take him out of the stadium. But most of the time, you don't see many that says, we've arrested him or we've taken him into custody. It's not like right here, he's been ejected. So that's a great follow. TAMU, Texas A&M University Police. It's a great Twitter follow.
Yeah, that's always good for a laugh or two most weekends, and seeing vaping being a big problem, I guess, at Kyle Field. Seeing that in like every other tweet that they sent out that I took a glance at earlier was obviously alcohol involved, but a lot of vaping inside the stadium, which they don't care for apparently. So yeah, that's another sign that football's here. Seeing the A&M police account start throwing some funny descriptions out there, even if it's just a plain description, just funny how screwed up people get, and obscene gestures and all the different stuff that goes on. Just feels like football's here.
Say what you will about smoking, and I know it's not good for you, and I know it's really hard for people to quit. Craig, you quit smoking a couple years ago and did it. Very proud of you for doing that, but at least it looks cool.
Yeah, I miss it a great deal. No, actually, it's been over 3 years cold turkey, but I don't miss all of the pains in the asses of having to be at a stadium and try to go find where to go. That was enough motivation. Being in an airport, being stuck and having to sit there and wait for your nicotine fix. So I get what people are doing with the vapes, and those are pretty easy to conceal, I guess. But not if you're just out there, I guess, doing it out in the open like some people apparently were to get caught doing it. But go sneak off into the bathroom stall or something and be somewhat discreet about it. But I guess you're drunk and you're not thinking all that clearly, so you're just vaping away and getting tossed out by being too drunk.
Yeah, I just think that, like, it's one of those things like, hey, we're going to have something with all of the same medical problems, but maybe slightly different, and it's going to look stupider. So
yeah, I'm not going to preach to anybody on what they do, and I'm not that type. People, if you've got a bad habit or whatever it is, and people have varying degrees of bad habits, drinking too much, smoking too much, eating too much, sex too much. I mean, whatever the case may be, but there's people that work out too much. I mean, there's all sorts of things, but I think the vape thing, to me, I understand that. I tried that back when I was trying to figure out how to quit. And to me, it's just, you still have the same addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only difference is that you just don't smell as bad, or it's not as bothersome to people. Although even if it doesn't smell like smoke, it's still a cloud of vapor you just spit out of your mouth that they're walking through. So like, I don't know. I feel like if you're like it's a way to quit the actual cigarettes, but you're still addicted to nicotine. Mm-hmm. Like that's the whole core of it, is you're just you're addicted to nicotine. It's not the cigarette, it's the nicotine. So you're just trading one form of nicotine for another form of nicotine. And the same goes if you do the lozenges or the gum, it's still all nicotine. I was very fortunate because I know it's tough. It's actually, people make it out to be way tougher than it is, and most of it's in your head. But I read a book and I was cold turkey, and I've never looked back and never even not had any single slip ups in like 3+ years.
I remembered it right after you did that. And you and I were talking in the car. You were a little bit on edge, which I understood it, but you did. You measured, gone. That's a hell.
Yeah, it's not easy. And I feel for those people who still like crave it and all that. Just like anything else, like I said, alcohol, food, working out, sex, gambling is another one. Like any number of vices. There's a lot of them out there. So I certainly sympathize. I'm very fortunate to have just had the magic combination of what I did when I did it. It was all just perfect to just say I'm done, and I've been done. No vaping, no lozenge, no nothing. Just
S. Michael DeHart, I'm proud of you for that. S. Michael DeHart, I think Coach Bennett is my favorite segment, with Tim Brando a close second. He's doing the game tonight, by the way. I think he's got the call for North Carolina and TCU as far as his call on Fox tonight in the last game of the weekend in college football. I think, we have not brought up John Mateer. I know we got the top 5 in a minute. Somebody asked about thoughts about John Mateer. I saw, I don't know if it was Josh McQuiston or whoever that covers OU. It was like, what they went, like 35-3 or whatever, put up some good numbers in a debut, hell of a player. But they were like, man, I got to be honest with you. I thought I'd see a little bit more electricity out of this. Craig, I didn't watch 1 second of that game live. Maybe I was doing another game or watching another game or busy. Your thoughts about what you saw?
I thought he was really sharp. I mean, had a good performance overall, but this is kind of what I was alluding to last week when I felt like the hype was sort of getting so high that like he almost like, I don't know. It just felt like he was the Heisman was his to lose, according to some people almost, because they were just gushing over him so much. And like, I watched him a lot last year and followed every single performance that he had, at least to at least read about it. And he was very good. He's very exciting, very explosive with his feet, and can make big plays with his arms as well. But at the same time, he was at Wazoo, he was doing it there. So like for me, and I know that they didn't play anybody but Illinois State, but for me, I'm just big picture wise last week was what I was referring to, was like, he's got the talent. He could very well go be in the Heisman conversation. I'm not putting my money on him to win it. And I do think there's going to be a bit of an adjustment period, but we haven't even hit that point yet. So to the question, I think the connecting factor here is that just the hype was so big that people were expecting like anything less than 5 touchdowns and like 100 yards rushing and whatever was going to be almost a disappointment because of how much this guy's been talked about. So I think that probably played some into it, but it also played into the fact that they weren't scoring a bunch early. Like it was 21-3 more than halfway through that game. I mean, it was a bit more of a struggle than I think people anticipated. Clearly they've got, weapons reestablished, but the offensive line still not, I don't think, quite where you would like it to be. He had good numbers, but yeah, I thought it was encouraging. Definitely feel better about this team than a year ago. Feel much better about the direction of the offense, but he wasn't necessarily like going crazy with his feet like he did in some other games last year. It was a bit of a maybe toned down dual threat type of performance versus what people expect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, again,
he had a really good game. It just wasn't like, oh my God, he's the most incredible football player I've ever seen. And that's kind of what I was getting at last week, was that I felt like, okay, guys, we got to slow down a little bit on the hype for this kid. He's really good, but like, we got to, be realistic as well.
Also, he's going to have Michigan next.
Yeah, he does.
I think you'll see more of that this week, because he's going to like, Illinois State didn't really throw him off schedule all that much, where he had to like go and make those like take off and run. I mean, he was able to, he was at 30 of 37. He threw that one pick, so he threw a lot, and they're going to do that. But I think as they play, Michigan, the other teams in the SEC, you'll see them probably have to run more, just because there'll be more penetration in the backfield. And that's where the material that's going to be the talked about player of the week kind of a guy is probably going to come out, because that's where he's kind of special, is not necessarily on the design ones. It's like, okay, well, you guys decided to blitz. No, that was dumb. Here we go.
Well, especially after this week, I think the biggest, I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be really, really solid. But I also think too that there were such great expectations that anything less than 500 yards and 100 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns was going to probably be a little bit of a letdown against an Illinois State. And it took them a while to really, truly like turn that into a blowout, which you could argue they never really did that until like the fourth quarter. So the offense wasn't putting up points, and a bit slower than you would have liked. And I think that played into the overall opinion on Mateer as well. It's just like, man, it took them a while to really like get to 35. I mean, against Illinois State. So what does that mean for playing in Alabama or whoever down the line? They do have some concerns on offense, though, that I think became the big talking points after. And I mentioned the offensive line just in passing there. There's still questions about the offensive line, but the lack of running game. I mean, barely over 100 yards. I mean, he was great passing the football.
I saw some shots at DeMarco Murray with some people analyzing their running
barely
game.
Crossed 100 yards, and that's with Mateer having a quarter of that. So he didn't run much. They couldn't run much. And I don't know if that's a big red flag or if that's just the first game. I don't know. That's where my mind is on it. I think Mateer is going to be really good, but if they can't block, then half the stuff you're excited about with him is neutered to some degree, because if it is design runs or even him having to escape, but especially the design run part, Well, if the running backs can't get going, you can't get going. Like, that's going to take away a big element of what makes him such a dynamic threat. And so I would not want to see John Mateer have to throw you to most victories. I just don't think that that's going to be the best recipe for success, is him having to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns every game, because your running backs are giving you 100 and your running game period is giving you 100 yards. And that's like, what are they going to run for against Texas? Mm-hmm. They're running for 103 against Illinois State. So that's where my concern is.
Yeah, and Ott has been dinged up, and he didn't get but 1 or 2 carries.
He got 1 carry.
I didn't see Taylor Tatum at all.
I didn't see him either.
The Longview, hell of a player who played a lot for them last year.
And I didn't really.
By the way, Mississippi State, Blake Shapen had a pretty decent day. They beat Southern Miss. And Jeff Levy gets the first win. They opened up with a win last year, but ended up 2-10.
Taylor Tatum was hurt, so that was part of why you didn't see him, or that is the reason why you didn't see him. And what did you just say? What did we just pivot to?
Blake Shapen at Mississippi
Okay.
State.
Blake Shapen, who's been around for a long, long time. I was mentioning that they won their game against Southern Miss. I saw the SEC shorts when they walked up to the fan in a Mississippi State jersey. Oh, so you beat an in-state rival. And they were trying to act like it might have been Ole Miss, and then they had to admit it was Southern Miss. But a nice win for Jeff Levy and company. But they won their first game against Eastern Kentucky last year and didn't win but one other game after that. All right. I think we hit not everything because it's hard, but we tried to kind of do it in a way where we discuss certain games and then get into certain news, et cetera. We'll see what happens tonight with TCU and North Carolina with the Bill Belichick debut. I'm looking forward to it to see how that works. Garrett Ross, Brandon Rowe, Andrew Valade. We're not done. Paul Catalina and his top 5.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Use our promo code 365sports at flagandanthem.com. Buy yourself some celebratory gear because the first full week of college football is in the books, and I got to tell you, it could not have gone more gloriously. I feel like Pat McAfee for a second, but I'm going to tell you, I'm in a great mood all week. I'm in a great mood all week, and nothing can bring me down. Oh, no, I'm going to keep on moving. Number 5 of our Week 1 awards. And if you don't know why I'm so happy, you don't watch the show very much. But Right there, baby. Right there. Number 5, the Who Needs LA Award. Joey Aguilar is a dude in the whole transfer portal process that got screwed the most royally. Moving sucks. Everyone hates moving. Like, you might be excited to move to your new city, but nobody actually likes the physical part of moving. Well, Joey Aguilar made the painstaking decision to move from Appalachian State, where he was an excellent quarterback, to Los Angeles, where UCLA is, to be their quarterback. Then Nico Iamaleava decides that he would like to be UCLA's quarterback, and UCLA makes the decision, albeit I don't think a very good one, to say, sure, Nico, come on here. Joey Aguilar ripped Syracuse to absolute shreds the other day and is a very good quarterback who has made me change my mind completely about how I felt about Tennessee just a week ago. So, to you, Joey Aguilar, who needs LA when you've got Knoxville, baby? Number 4, the 1-0 Award. Garrett Ross will present this trophy in person to Brian Kelly the next time he sees him. It is a $10 Visa gift card. So, if you're just on a plane and want to buy internet, it's kind of what you do with it. But still, the 1-0 Award. What is the 1-0 Award, you ask? This is the first time at LSU that Brian Kelly has been 1-0. Now, to their credit, of the 4 games they've played since he's been the coach at LSU were 2 of Mike Norvell's best Florida State teams. In fact, his 2 best Florida State teams, and USC in Vegas, which was a toss-up game and before USC's wheels really fell off. Then they go to Clemson in the fake Death Valley, because it is now officially the fake Death Valley. Since the road team went in and won the game there, the real Death Valley is officially in Baton Rouge, and at least for 365 more days, Clemson can't say anything about it. So congratulations to Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers for finally getting out of their own way. If you remember, this streak started with them getting an extra point blocked by Jared Verse, and then ended with Jaden Daniels playing his worst half of football as an entire LSU career with FSU, and then an amazing catch by USC last year. But Garrett Nussmeier, we're talking about some buses today. The Nuss bus and the Gus bus. The Nuss bus is going to be full of people. He was impressive as a leader on Saturday night. Number 3, the Who Is That Man Award. Byram Brown. If you didn't know him before, shame on you, but you will know him now. Look, I understand that most people aren't going to get their dander up for USF versus Boise State on a Thursday. But guess what? That is 2 pretty darn good teams most year in and year out. Alex Golesh finally has things in motion the way exactly he wants them to go. Byram Brown is a veteran now. He demolished Boise State, he and the rest of the Bulls, on Thursday last week, and I think he put the world on notice. He's going to be a problem to stop in Tampa. Number 2, the All-You-Can-Eat Gumbo Award goes to Jake Retzloff, who came into Tulane just about a month ago, and is now the starter. He had this big, long run that you see here, and the team was fired up because Northwestern inexplicably wouldn't let them wear white uniforms to celebrate honor the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. Ironically, he was dismissed from BYU for breaking the honor code. BYU had a great win against Boise State. That score was 69-0. I'm just going to let you figure out that. So, anyway, no laughs on that one? Okay, good deal. Sometimes I rely on the peanut gallery over here to let me know if jokes land or not. And number 1, the Prophet Award goes to my man, Tommy Castellanos. King Dingaling, Tommy Castellanos, who in June said, I don't see how Alabama can stop me. They don't have Nick to save them anymore. And guess what? This little rascal was damn right. And glory has returned to Tallahassee for at least 6 days. Then Alabama loses. I could not be more thrilled with Tommy Castellanos. I will give him a freaking kidney, and I've already promised one to Jordan Travis. Who needs kidneys when you can have dialysis? I would do it for my nose. Tommy Castellanos is the man. I don't care that I'm screaming. Let's go to the polls. Go Noles, baby.
It has been a while since you've had that kind of release.
Yeah.
Of happy when it comes to your Florida State Seminoles. If they were wanting all this ability to leave the ACC when they were 2-10, God knows what they're going to want now.
It's going to be like they just beat Alabama, which is not at all different than it was just 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So here are Andrew Valaide's poll results. What the hell?
All right.
1,283. Everyone's off. No one's like Florida State over Bama. That's a no-brainer. 1,283 votes. Is that a record, Andrew?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is too. Then there's Utah, the win against UCLA, then LSU, Clemson, and then Miami's win against Notre Dame. That's a monstrous win. Florida State's winning in everything. And now the other poll. What do you expect from Bill Belichick's debut tonight against Sonny Dykes and the Frogs? Reality check, okay. Close loss. And then UNC shocks. I don't know if they'd be shocks, but I get it. We got shocks TCU. So pretty even, but reality check staring him right in the face.
I picked TCU to win this game. I think they've just got better players right now than UNC does.
I like TCU to win this game. I feel of the power matchups that the Big 12 had, I feel like this one was one I never really got shook on too much or went back and forth on very much at all. I've liked TCU all along to win this game. Nothing's changed to make me feel any differently about that. I don't know if it'll be some indictment really in any type of way, a reality check for Belichick and his Tar Heels, but I am fascinated to see them play here soon and see what this actually looks like. I mean, enough of the girlfriend, enough of the Patriots and all that jazz this offseason. Now we get to see what a college football team head coached by Bill Belichick. We get to see what that looks like. So weird to be in a spot where Saban's not coaching college, but Bill Belichick is.
Yeah.
It's a shame they couldn't cross paths maybe for a brief lap over year or something like that. But nevertheless, I'm way more interested in what North Carolina does, and I've been interested in what North Carolina's done for quite some time, with all due respect to Mac Brown and the like. But this is a fun way to wind things down this week, and hopefully it's a fun competitive game, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow regardless of how entertaining or what the result is.
Yeah, we've got some national analysts on tomorrow, and we'll look back at tonight's game, TCU and North Carolina, tonight on Fox. All right, I mentioned Garrett, Brandon, Andrew. Thanks to our great sponsors. The viewers, Twitter was loaded up. People watching us live on 365 Sports YT on YouTube. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Back again tomorrow at 3. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak, and good night.